Yeah, greetings and welcome again to another PACM module session. And as you can see, the title this Sunday, we'll be looking at the questions around the vaccine and why are Black people so reluctant to take it. We are fortunate to have today a full studio. So after I go to Ndugu Amani, who will be changing the vibration for us, then I will go around and introduce each guest in turn. So first, I'd like to refer to Brother, Ndugu Amani, who will be changing the vibration.
Asante sana, Ndugu, and hamjambo jamaa. Asante sana means thanks very much, and Ndugu means brother, and hamjambo is greetings, and Jama is kindred. So, my name is Ndugu Amani. I'm a member of the Pan-African Congress movement and an African spiritual life coach. And we have a ritual that we do in cyberspace, a form of libation called Maba Deliko Ya Nishati. So this is in order for us to be in the right vibration with each other so that we can connect with our higher selves and with universal consciousness and connect with each other wherever we are, because we are one vibration. So it doesn't matter where we are in the world, we can still connect with each other. We are that expression of the creator. So I'm going to start that. As is the way with African spirituality and our expressions, that it's not about coercion. It's about sharing. It's about recapturing our culture and our way of life. Our spirituality is a way of life. It's not a religion. It's a way of life. So it's recapturing that. But people need to feel comfortable with what they see. So if you wish to take part of everybody who is in the call, so greetings to my brothers and sisters. If you wish to take part, please stay unmuted. If not, you can mute yourself and just watch what's happening. Everything is translated on screen, so you'll be able to follow. Okay, and we show the necessary respect for our traditions and our way of life. Okay, so I will begin, but before, as part of the ritual, but as part of that, something that we should be doing anyway, is about centering ourselves. And to center ourselves, we use our breath. Our breath is our link between our physical realm and our spiritual realm, our physical entity. So we use that is life. And so we're going to do some pot belly breathing, if people know what that is. And that means that when you breathe out, you're going to pull your stomachs in. And then when you breathe in, you're going to relax your stomach, and that will bring the air in through your nose into your lungs, and use your full, if you've got your full use of your lungs, full capacity of your lungs. Okay. Yes. So Spirit tells me that we should do it 4 times. So if you wish to take part, please sit straight in whichever seat you're sitting in, feet flat on the floor, palms of your hands on your thighs, and we close our eyes, and this will help us to be where we should be and not where our enemies want us to be, which is to be emotional and reactive and animalistic, but centered and in full capability of our own powers and our own spiritual nature. So I'm going to count in Kiswahili and to keep time. So we first of all going to close eyes and we breathe out. So hold it, relax, and breathe in through your nose. Hold it, and now breathe out, pull the stomach in. Hold it, relax, breathe in. Mbili. And now relax, breathe out. hold it, relax and breathe in. Tatu. And now breathe out, hold it, and relax and breathe in. In there. Okay, can open our eyes. And I'm going to share my screen and do good Taharkah, so hopefully you can hear me. Okay. Dada Kandake, can you see that on screen, in your screen?
It's come up now, yes.
That's okay, wonderful. Asante sana, Dada. Okay, sister in Kiswahili means Dada. So, Mabadiliko ya nishati, change of energy. So as I say, this is our ritual that we perform, a form of libation, because we're going to give, you can give water, alcohol, as a form of, a symbolic form of offering. And we're going to offer our energy, which is also can be used. So, everything is in English, can be, and you'll see things in Kemetic terms and in some terms from Vodon. Okay, so to change the energy or vibration, we now thank the powers to ask that we have a closer connection with them and that they assist us in manifesting our objectives. Because we're invocating powers that are within us, not outside of us, that are within us. In order to change that vibration, help us assist us to do that, I'm going to ring the triangle, very powerful object. 3 sides. 3 is for creation, for optimism, for creation, communication. And yes, I'll ring it 3 times. I'll ring it 3 times. As I do ring the chime, the vibration, allow that vibration to go around you, through you, and over you. As you do that, and you're focusing on that, allow that to bring you into resonance with the area that you're in physically, and then that to open up your 3rd eye in your pituitary gland, your seat of intuition, and thereby opening us up to connection with universal consciousness, and by that with connection with each other wherever we are in the world. And so we'll do that, and as we do that, we're offering that energy as a offering to the all, to the powers. Okay, so I'll begin. Breathe deeply, eyes open or closed as you feel, and I'll ring 3 times, and I'll count to keep time. Moja. Mbili. Tatu. Now continue. Now we come to the call and response part of the ritual. So I speak, and then you follow with me, and we say in unison, Sisi ni kitu kimoja, in Kiswahili, which means we are one, or we are the same thing. A very powerful affirmation, a very powerful invocation that we're saying that these powers, we are the same thing. They are us. So, and I'll begin. Ninaomba yamuumba awote. Sisi ni kitu kimoja. Ninaomba ya nebacha.
Sisi ni kitu kimoja.
Beautiful. Now one of the Lawa from Vodon. Ninaomba kanuni na nguvu ya mami wata.
Sisi ni kitu kimoja.
Now the principles of the Creator that underpin all things. Ninaomba kanuni na nguvu ya shu. Sisi ni kitu kimoja.
Kitu kimoja.
Ninamba kanuni na nguvu ya Tefnut.
Sisini
Kimoja.
Kitu Kimoja.
Ninamba kanuni na nguvu ya Nut.
Sisini Kitu Kimoja.
Now we go on to the PACMTV, the spiritual science to improve the human being so that they become one with their higher selves and thereby bring themselves and all the universe and all creation into balance. Going from the lowest vibration to the highest vibration. Ninamba kanuni na nguvu ya Geb.
Sisini Kitu Kimoja.
Ninamba kanuni na nguvu ya Alset.
Sisini Kitu Kimoja.
Ninaomba kanuni na nguvu ya Sebek.
Sisini
Kitu
Kimoja.
Ninaomba kanuni na nguvu ya Hetaru.
Sisini Kitu Kimoja.
Ninaomba kanuni na nguvu ya Haru.
Sisini
Kitu
Kimoja.
Ninaomba kanuni na nguvu ya Herakuti.
Sisini Kitu
Kimoja.
Sisini Kitu.
Ninaomba kanuni na nguvu ya Maat.
Sisini
Kitu Kimoja.
Sisini Kitu Kimoja.
Ninaomba kanuni na nguvu ya Sakar.
Sisini Kitu Kimoja. Sisini Kitu Kimoja.
Ninaomba kanuni na nguvu ya Tehuti.
Sisini Kitu Kimoja. Sisini Kitu Kimoja.
Ninaomba kanuni na nguvu ya Alsa.
Sisini Kitu
Kimoja.
Sisini Kitu Kimoja.
Ninaomba kanuni na nguvu ya Amen.
Sisini Kitu Kimoja.
And as we gave thanks to already given thanks to the first ancestor, the All, the Creator, we now give thanks to those in our direct bloodline we should never forget. I'll begin. Ninaomba, Mama Yangu, my mother, Audrey Mae Kelly. Sisini Kitu Kimoja.
Sisini Kitu Kimoja.
Please, brothers and sisters, if there's ancestors, Mababu, that you wish to call in your direct bloodline, please do.
Niliamba, Grandfather James, Grandmother Daisy, Grandfather Waldy, and Grandmother Amy. Sisini Kitu Kimoja.
Sisini Kitu Kimoja.
Ninaomba Mother Iselin Rattigan, Grandfather Sylvester Rattigan, Grandmother Louise Hines.
Sisini
Kitu Kimoja.
Sisini Kitu Kimoja. Niniamba, grandmother family, uncle Castro, auntie Epsilon, Sisini Kitu Kimoja.
Niliamba, Great Aunt Mary, and Aunt Phyllis. Sisini
Kitu Kimoja.
Sisini Kitu Kimoja.
Okay, right, so, and now we can call upon those ancestors who are not in our direct bloodline, but who gave their time, their effort, their resources, and their very lives to move us towards the liberation of African people. Ninaomba Mzee, Mzee means elder. Ninaomba Mzee the Honourable Marcus Messiah Garvey.
Sisini
Kitu
Kitu
Kumoja.
Kumoja.
Sisini
Niliamba
Kitu Kimoja.
Niliamba Patrice Tobomba, American Cabral, Harriet Tubman, Sojourner Truth. Sisini
Kitu Kumoja.
Kitu Kimoja. Niniamba, Nani of the Maroons, Ya Asantewa, Steve Biko, Kwame Nkrumah, Didan Kamathi.
Sisini Kitu Kumoja.
Sisini Kitu Kimoja.
Anyone else? No? Okay. Ninaomba Wazee.
Niniamba,
Okay.
Thomas Sankara,
Sisini Kitu Kumoja.
Sisini Kitu Kimoja.
Ninaomba Wazee. Ninaomba Wazee. Amy Ashford Garvey, Amy Jacques Garvey, Winnie Mandela, Dr. Francis Quest Wilson. Sisini Kitu Kumoja.
Sisini Kitu Kimoja.
And now we can go on to call upon and remember those ancestors who we don't always know their names, but they left us a tremendous legacy. The first being those of the Mangamazi. Ninaomba Mababuya Mangamazi. Sisini Kitu Kumoja.
Sisini Kitu Kimoja.
Ninaomba Mababuya Gula Vita. That was fought in the Gula Wars. Sisini Kitu Kumoja. Ninaomba Mababuya. Ninaomba Mababuya. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Dada.
Okay. Niniamba Mababuwa Nyabingi Queens of the Congo. Sisini Kitu Kimoja.
Ninaomba Mababuya Kori. Ninaomba Mababu Watu ya Kori. Na West Papua. Na Papua New Guinea. Na Tasmania. Na Dravidians. Na San. Na Twa. Na Hutu. Sisini Kitu Kumoja.
Sisini Kitu. Niniamba, the Kandakes of Ethiopia, East Africa, the Amazon Queens, warriors from Benin.
Sisini Kitu Kumoja.
Sisini Kitu Kimoja.
Ninaomba Mababuya APLA, na SWAPO, na Freedom and Land Party, na Black Panthers. Sisini Kitu Kumoja.
Sisini Kitu. Niniamba, the priests and the priestesses who have kept the traditional temples from then till now. Sisini Kitu
Kumoja. Ninawaomba wanaishi ambao watatetea sisi na wale mababu ambao bado hawajazaliwa. Sisini Kitu Kumoja.
Sisini Kitu Kimoja.
And we end with the words of power and affirmation on screen. We say with the vibration of our voices, with intent, and give them power. So just follow after me. Nguvu zote
Nguvu zetu.
zote
kwa watu wetu,
nguvu
kwa watu
zote
wetu,
kwa watu wetu,
kwa watu wetu,
mapenzi ya wote,
mapenzi ya
mapenzi
wote,
ya wote
mapenzi ya wote,
ni mapenzi yetu,
ni mapenzi
ni
yetu,
mapenzi yetu,
ni mapenzi yetu,
hakuna mwanzo
hakuna
kuna
mwanzo
mwanzo
hakuna mwanzo
na hakuna mwisho.
na
na
hakuna
hakuna
mwisho.
mwisho.
na hakuna mwisho.
And finally, in the Cometian, Anuk, Amen.
Anok, amen.
Anuk, amen.
That means all power to our people. The will of the all is our will. There is no beginning and there is no end. I am. Amen. Asante sana, Jamal. Thanks very much, family.
Asante sana. Asante sana, Ndugramani, for
Very
that.
good. You're welcome.
Yep. Now, I'd like to welcome everybody to another of our PACM Umoja session. And this week, it's a very special session. You can see from the number of guests we have. We'll be looking at the topic is, why are so many Black people reluctant to take the vaccine? Now, the last statistics I've heard, it is said that 85% of those surveyed in this country said they are willing to take the vaccine. So obviously that leaves another 15% of which, as they say, the Black ethnic minorities are part of. And now they're saying, but on this program, we'll be focusing mainly on the African Caribbean community, because that's the community we belong to. And it is saying, why is there so much reluctance within this community to take the vaccines? So that's the question that we'll be looking at this evening. So what I like to do now is to actually go around and get each of the guests to introduce themselves briefly, and then we will then ask them to give their point of view as to why they think we are in this situation where the vaccines are being rolled out. Several different vaccines are rolled out into the community, and yet the take up within the African Caribbean community is extremely low. And we can see now we have videos by the various MPs encouraging this community to take up the vaccines. You can also see now they are making targeted ads that will be targeted at us, also encouraging us to take the vaccines. And we also have a situation now where if any, especially on social media, that if any footage is going up, what they call anti-vaccine, there'll be a proactive campaign to actually take them down, which I found a bit disturbing in that we are only being given one side of the argument. They only want one side of the argument to get out, because we know there's many people within the medical professions who have come out against the vaccine, and yet their voices are not allowed to be heard. They are completely shut down. So hopefully this meeting will give some insight onto what is going on. So first, I'd like to go to Brother Devon. And could you just quickly introduce yourself, give a little background in yourself, and then first.
Oh, yes. Thank you, brother. My name is Devon Morgan. I have a history in human biology, which mean I studied that in school. And for the past 20 odd years, I have actually researched human biology and medicine, meaning I've researched the two main types, which is allopathic medicine and naturopathic medicine. So I know the difference between the two. For the past 20 years, I've been researching that aspect of it. Also, I've researched nutrition for that period of time. And I've also written books relating to cancer. And yeah, that's the main one, really.
Okay, that's fine. So next, Sister Kandake did the same, just a little background in itself.
Okay, greetings. First of all, I want to say that I am a daughter of the Most High. So to acknowledge the divine world and our ancestors as we have already done, but I'd like to just acknowledge them. In terms of how it relates to today, I have trod the road of Rastafari for over 30 years. So we had a first-hand look at things outside of the system and lived it. I have a degree in medical herbalism, so I am medically trained like a doctor, but we don't use pharmaceuticals. We use herbs, natural medicine, and nutrition, and I have 12 years in private clinical practice, working alongside specialists like gynecologists, endocrinologists, and other professionals in the healthcare industry.
Okay. Now, what I've been told, there's a slight delay on the system. So when I speak, it'll take a bit of time sometime for the guests to get what I'm saying so they can reply. So, you know, just to bear that in mind. So next, I'd like to turn to the Motivator. I hope you're hearing me. Could you do the same? Give a little background on yourself.
Thank you. Am I being heard? That's fine.
Yes, you've been
Excellent.
heard.
Thank you. I'm the Motivator. I'm a presenter on Galaxy Radio. I'm also an elected councillor, and my primary reason for being here is that I've had calls to quiz practitioners, both doctors and NHS administrators. I've met constituents who are for and against the vaccine. I've met constituents who have demise as a direct result of contracting and developing complications as a result of the COVID-19. And I'd now take a position that whilst my tradition is that I have a natural aversity to pharmaceuticals. I'm from Jamaica, and as the last speaker has mentioned, my inclination is to always take herbs and to promote the best possible good health and optimize immunoresponse to diseases. But I recognize that others do not follow this tradition, and therefore we should maximize and ensure we protect life. And those who are not who follow our tradition should take, wherever possible, the necessary steps to prevent them from contracting a severe reaction to the COVID-19 pandemic. So I'm both for and against vaccines.
Okay, yeah, we'll come around to that. It's just a brief introduction. Next, I'd just like the same for Elder Pepukayi. Just give a little background on yourself.
Well, you could call me a community activist. For some 50 years, I've been on Liberation Road in response to white terrorism. And part of that is the distribution of books written by people to advance our education or knowledge as to how to live on planet Earth.
Okay, that's fine. So each of our guests have introduced themselves, and of course, Brother Taharkah. And I'm here as a member of the Pan-African Congress Movement, and I host these programs each Sunday between 6 and 8, and they're known as the Mojo Session, when we look at various topics, affecting the African Caribbean community. Also, I'd like to say the Pan-African community worldwide. So now that we have had an introduction from everybody, I'd like to go into the actual point. Why do we think Black people are so reluctant to take this vaccine? So again, I'd like to start now with Brother Devon. So could you take the next, say, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, just to lay out the reasons why you think this is the case?
Well, I first saw the suggestion about the reason in that video that was mentioned that the MPs did, suggesting that it has to do with a history of mistrust. They also recommend that we should consult our health professionals to make a decision about this. I don't think it's just about the history of mistrust. I think that is a factor, but it's much more than that. Many of us don't trust the information that is being provided, and many of us don't see vaccine as a valid solution. And there is, and as I've mentioned in my introduction, that I have researched medicine and for over 20 years. And that includes information to do with vaccines. It's not about the history, it's about the information we've been given now. And it doesn't help the case of vaccines, for example, when you find that many of us have seen a spokesperson on television lying about vaccines. So this is what happened. He was asked the question, if somebody had recovered from COVID-19, should they still take the vaccine? Since vaccine is based on the principle that since the whole thing about the immune system, that once you recovered from something, you're now immune. At least that's the way it was, the basic fundamental of how the whole thing about the body's immune system is. And it's the basis in which they claim to make vaccine itself, that it creates an immunity in the body. So he was asked this question, and he said, yes, we should, even if you recovered from it, you should take the vaccine. And the reason he gave was that the human body that is able to recover from this thing without any medicine, and even though this virus is supposed to be novel, it is one of the most mysterious and deadly ones we've seen, the intelligent body has managed to recover from it. But he's saying, well, no, that's a short term. The vaccine is long-term. So that's the first big lie, because for a start, how can you know that it's long-term when long-term can only be judged based on future, based on past events? In other words, you'd have to do a study, whatever number of years study to determine if something is long-term. He's saying it's long-term now when he has no basis to say that. So you can only conclude that he's either lying or he's just grossly incompetent or whatever. But that doesn't make any sense at all. So it doesn't help the case when people come out and say things like that, and these are supposed to be the experts. The other thing is that the fact that they are suggesting we should consult with our health professionals. Dr. Susan Humphreys, there's a video with a lady called Dr. Susan Humphreys. And she's declaring that doctors are not taught in medical schools what is in vaccines and how it's manufactured. So that eliminates us talking to doctors in general about advisors about vaccines. But here's a doctor saying that they're not taught that in school. So therefore, that is not a source for people to have any information from. So the other point is that for him to make the case that the vaccine is desirable, even though the human body has recovered, the fact is that it is known that vaccine has a history of injury and death. People have died from vaccine, and it's not just a current situation, because there is reports that in various countries that they have seen people have died from vaccine. But it's not just about now. Dr. Mendelssohn declared that in 1976, when they had the great swine flu, right? When they had the great swine flu he declared that 565 cases of what they call a Guillain-Barré paralysis. It is exactly what it suggests, that people have this paralysis as a result of it was linked to the swine flu vaccination at the time. And there was 565 cases. And this was something that was in the courts. People took this to the courts to sue about it, right? And there also there was also 30 unexplained deaths as a result in 1976 from this vaccine. There's another person, a guy called Anthony Robbins. He's a renowned researcher. He also made a comment about this incident in 1976, where he's saying that during this hearing, after the swine flu vaccine deaths, the death certificates were frequently gave heart failure as the cause of death. But statements from the families say the victims had never had any history of heart trouble, but died within a few hours after their flu shot. This is what Anthony Robbins said, commenting on the 1976, they call it the flu vaccine fiasco. So, as I said, many of us, we are concerned about the information provided. And in analyzing the information, for example, we look at, for example, the Pfizer vaccine, and then you have Moderna. Now, the Pfizer vaccine, they declare that the effective rate is claimed to be 95%. The Moderna vaccine is claimed to be 94.1% effective at preventing symptomatic COVID-19. Now, even though this virus is said to be novel, meaning that experts don't fully understand it, that's why they call it this novel virus. Even though that is the case, and basically they're saying it's a deadly virus. And if it wasn't deadly, there would be no need for us to be locking down the world if it wasn't, right? Yet, in spite of all of that, our intelligent bodies have consistently have a recovery rate of 97%. And I've been monitoring these numbers in terms of cases and deaths from last year for several months. I've been doing it from day one. And the figures have not moved beyond outside of this range. We're 97.3%. Sometimes even higher than that, there is a recovery from the vaccine without any cure in sight. The body is doing this without medicine. Right, so the simple question is this. Why should people take a vaccine that has a lower effective rate than the human body? Plus, it's already known that there is side effects from taking vaccine, including death, possible death. So why would the logical brain suggest that we should take vaccine when the human body has a better track record, and the human body have no side effect, and it's definitely not going to kill you when it recovers you from it? It makes no sense. And anybody can go and check the figures, the world figures, the UK figures. The UK is the highest rate I've seen, at just over 3% in one case. In America, with the numbers that they have there, it's 1.8% I saw, I think, last December. Right? 1.8% was the death rate, that's it, right? there's other breakdown that I've actually written to my MP to make this to cite this as part of the conversation, to say, well, we need to look at this thing not just from the pharmaceutical industry, which is a commercial enterprise, and I think it's unwise for a commercial enterprise to drive anything to do with humans, to do with public health. When there's a profit motive involved, I think it's probably the richest industry in the world right now. So when there's that much money at stake, I don't think it's a wise decision for governments to allow them to have that much power. When a small minority of people can shut down the world economy, when the most powerful country in America, the President of the United States, cannot do that, I think that's an unwise situation that we've seen, where these people have that much power, right? So let's look at some of what they're claiming, right? And I'm saying to you, we are reacting to the information that they're giving us and saying it makes no sense to us, right? First, they say it's the deadliest virus we have experienced in modern era. If that was not true, there's no justification to put us on lockdown, right? They say it stays in the atmosphere up to 2 meters, hence the need for social distancing, right? So I'm just going through what they've told us, and we're going to break it down. So they say most of the people who die have underlying or pre-existing condition. That's what we've been told as well. The vast majority of people who contract the virus recover without using medical care. I've already stated that. So the body can get rid of the virus by producing antibodies. That's how the body does it. So the body has that intelligence built in. Hence, in the UK, up to recently in the UK, survivors were asked to donate blood for these antibodies. So that's confirmation that this is true, that the human body has these antibodies that deals with the virus. That's factual by them asking people to donate blood. Right. They are also claiming that there's a significant number of those who are infected with coronavirus are what they call asymptomatic. So what is that exactly? It refers to those who are infected but never develop any symptoms. And in my view, all science usually is governed by logic and mathematics and all of that, right? Medicine is the only science where logic is of no consequence, because how can somebody have something that is deadly in their body but it has no deadly effect whatsoever? It has no effect. They're not even sick. That makes no sense. But they have introduced this into the dialogue because they cannot explain why is it they find something in a person's body that is supposed to be deadly and the person is not sick. So they say, well, but it's still a valid argument that the thing is deadly. Okay. The other point is this. The death rate amongst children is negligible. It's hardly mentioned. How do they explain this? They say children are likely to become infected with COVID at roughly the same rate as adults, but the infection is usually mild. So here it is, they're saying to a child who has a weaker immune system than an adult, have the same infection rate, but the effect is mild. Something that is deadly have a mild effect on a child who have a weaker immune system. That makes no sense at all. But we are not, because we are approaching this thing with a presumption of truth, we accept it without question. All over the world, that is the phenomenon that's going on. People are accepting this thing without any logic or any analysis. There's nothing written about babies. And this is also a major thing. If this thing is the way they say it is, it's in the atmosphere and it functions the way it functions, how do we explain that at any given moment there's millions of babies born in this world and it doesn't affect them and they have virtually little or any immune system compared to an adult, but they are not dying. But we need social distancing, all of that stuff is still valid. But the babies it's not touching babies. And they have come up with an explanation for that, because they always come up with things to me that is devious and covering themselves. They're claiming that the adult, by the time you get an adult, your body develops what they call a receptor. In other words, your body develops something to receive something that will kill you. But babies don't develop it. And that is supposed to be scientific. They make it up as they go along, in my view. We don't trust none of that type of silly argument, right? They have not found it necessary to explain to us what the role pre-existing condition plays in people dying, since the vast majority of them are dying, who are dying are from pre-existing. The CDC, right, has reported that coronavirus patients with underlying health conditions are hospitalized at a rate 6 times as often as healthy individuals. And they die 12 times as often. In other words, 600% more likely to be hospitalized and 1,200% more likely to die because of pre-existing condition. What does that tell us? It's proof that the virus largely depends on a partner, because if it was deadly on its own, it would be relevant whether or not you have a pre-existing condition. If I give you some snake venom, does it matter whether or not you have an underlying condition or anything for you to die? But we are supposed to accept this logic in science, that because you have an underlying condition and that caused you to die, and you're more likely to die if you have an underlying condition. But the main issue is not the underlying condition. The main issue is the virus. But the virus, if the virus is the main issue, then it would wipe out anybody that gets it if it's deadly, because it wouldn't care whether or not you have a condition or not. But they say, yeah, that's the way it works. But they say they still don't fully understand it, but they're telling us definitively that's the way it works, right? Now, so we're saying if the virus is not deadly on its own, it needs a partner. And the alternative explanation that's been provided by one researcher, the same guy, Tony Robbins, is this. And we notice that the flu season is a specific time of the year. It always it's like clockwork. There's a flu season. That's when it starts. So it's either there's a situation where viruses take flight and attack human beings at a specific time of the year. Right? There's another explanation. And since we have done a little bit of research and we find that viruses are not living things, they're a bit of protein. So the alternative explanation that makes far more sense, and it explains why the pre-existing condition is so relevant. Why is it most of the people that die is pre-existing condition? Is the same explanation as to why people die from the common flu in this country and the world. 18,000 on average in this country. And that is never usually reported for some mysterious reason. The explanation is that it is linked to what has been provided here, right? That viruses, germs, only multiply when it has the environment that it can multiply in. And he also, Tony Robbins also declared, and this is something government can research. They can find this out if they want to. When they do their research on viruses in the lab, they have never shown that the virus can multiply on a clean piece of meat or anything. They always use things that are decay and rotting to demonstrate the virus activity. And what it demonstrates is that virus will try to get rid of waste. That's what it does in nature to do the ecosystem, right? It rots things and helps to fertilize the earth and all of that. It's the same principle. So when the human body is filled with waste, and if you're sick and you have pre-existing condition, it means that your body produces a lot of waste. Viruses become relevant at why there's a predetermined flu season, because that's the time of the year that people load up their body with far more waste than other time. We drink to excess, which clogs up our arteries and clogs up our blood. We put in a lot more toxins in our system during that time, and if we were on a toxic diet throughout the year, by the time it's December, going back to January, February, some of us time is up, because If germs are always around, but the body can adequately deal with these germs, providing the body is not overwhelmed with waste. And the body cannot eliminate the waste as fast as it's building up. That is why, for example, if your kidney don't work properly and even the natural waste that the body produces, you will die from that natural waste. And you will need dialysis for you to prevent you from dying. Because the natural waste poisons the human body. Even the natural waste, when you're perfectly healthy, that natural waste will kill you if you can't shift it out of the body. So if you then put a situation where you have excessive toxins in your system build up over time, you're eating too much things that create mucus in the system, like animal products, milk, etc., then it will kill you. And that's the alternative view from a naturopathic point of view as to why people die from the virus. And it explains why the virus on its own is not the issue, because it only becomes an issue when there's waste for it to operate in.
Okay.
So,
okay, yeah, definitely. Hold that. Yeah, I just want to go around quickly and then we'll have more opening for more general debate. Yeah, I just like Sister Theresa, who have just arrived, quickly, just to introduce yourself, please, just to say a little bit about yourself, background.
Oh, hello, everyone. Thank you for having me on the panel. I apologize for being a bit late. My name is Theresa Hatchett, and I am a community empowerment coach and a business coach. And I've created a project called Take 3 Chefs. And what we are trying to do is to educate people about their health and their well-being and empowering them to take on the challenge that this society is giving them about how do they maintain their health in these times and going forward. So that's me very briefly.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, I'll come back to you soon. So now I'd like to turn to Sister Kandake, and could you just give your take on the topic for today? Hello, Kandake? No, I don't think she's hearing me. Okay, while I see what's happening to Kandake, I'd like to now... Yeah, greetings.
Can you hear me?
Yes, but there seems to be a big delay. Okay, what I'll do, I'll go to Elder Pepukayi now until we can sort this technical issue out. So Elder Pepukayi, could you give your take? Yeah, you got to unmute.
I said, my talk, I'd rather go last.
Well, all right. Let's call on the Motivator.
Hopefully you can hear me fine. Yeah.
Yes, I'm hearing you fine.
Thank you very much. Now, I am not a clinical expert. I've got no clinical qualification, but what I am good at is scrutinizing professionals. Is what I've been involved in all my professional life, both as in my early days as a school government chairman of 2 schools, and leading and indeed questioning professionals, and also, of course, in my political life as an elected councillor. So I'm good at scrutinizing and getting at the truth. So my first statement to all professionals is this a real virus? Should we really be concerned? What, and indeed, if we are to be concerned, explain why. And this is over some wise to me. It's going back just over a year, or just under a year now, that this is a novel virus. A COVID-19 is a strain of the SARS group of viruses. Okay, And whilst they are familiar with aspects of its characteristics, this particular strain, COVID-19, is novel. They don't have a history with it. Okay, it is said that it has origin in China, Wuhan, in a laboratory that was, I presume, investigating the SARS variants, of which this was one of them, and it was able to be released into the atmosphere, as much as I'm aware. Its effect in the atmosphere is that it is transmitted through the air, but on human spittle, which is the reason why social distancing is important. I also understand that the reason why it's of concern to doctors worldwide, the overwhelming majority of doctors worldwide, it's really because it's highly infectious. And it is, and as the previous speaker said, the overwhelming majority of people are largely asymptomatic. There's, of course, a group who have sort of mild impact, but of course, a much smaller number have severe symptoms. And those who are particularly vulnerable, as I understand it, are those with pre-existing conditions. And unfortunately, the beginning of those conditions begin with your age. So if you are elderly and infirm and with a slightly compromised or reduced capacity immunoresponse, you are particularly vulnerable to the coronavirus. Okay, and all the evidence suggests that the elderly make up more than 85% of all deaths in relation to the coronavirus. So I say again, more than 85% of all deaths are the elderly. The second group, of course, that I'm told are particularly vulnerable to the coronavirus are those with other pre-existing conditions. Okay, and again, I'm able to validate this because I've met people in my ward, in my political ward, who possess these pre-existing conditions, and I'm able to validate that these conditions apparently are heightened your susceptibility to the coronavirus. So those people who've had cancer and are currently going through cancer treatment, and of course the very nature of cancer treatment these days means that it does affect the immune system. The drugs that are taken and the treatment given affects the immune system and makes you somewhat more vulnerable to infections. Okay, those with chronic kidney diseases apparently are affected, and I've met those with chronic kidney diseases. Those with respiratory or COPD, pulmonary diseases are particularly vulnerable. Okay, those with Down syndromes apparently are vulnerable. Again, those with heart conditions, again, because of the treatment program that they're given, reduces their immune response, makes them particularly vulnerable. They are more vulnerable. Those people who are obese, particularly those who are heavily obese, again, are particularly vulnerable. And all the evidence suggests that I've observed that that is also the case. And indeed, smokers, and indeed, particularly concerned to me, because I've got it in my family, those with sickle cell disease are also particularly vulnerable. And of course, diabetes and so on. Now, I've seen empirical evidence that that is so. With the exception of Down disease, I've met people with those conditions, and those who've contracted it, I've had a very severe response to the disease, or indeed have demised. And indeed, the large number of those that I know who have demised have primarily been the elderly. Then secondly, those with kidney diseases, and indeed, and follow on with heart conditions. So I've seen it for myself. But I want to emphasize that I have a tradition, and not unlike a number of people here, I was brought up to believe in natural remedies and to promote good health. So my tradition is that herbs are the way to go. Okay, I regularly fast. I have relatively small amounts of meat. I'm very much I'm not a vegan, but I very much indeed ensure that my body is in good condition. I sufficiently hydrate my body, and I've not had any major concerns for the past 55 years. Okay, the only reason why I've had reason to go to a doctor in the last 30 years is because I infected a spot on my back. I've had no conditions. Okay, I regularly exercise. I run and I exercise every day as part of my broader health regime. Okay, so but I'm not typical. I recognize that in my own community, the diseases I've just outlined, they are quite prevalent. In addition to many of my community members who are in frontline jobs, it means that they're exposed to the general public, maybe disproportionately, and that could be on the transport system, indeed in the healthcare system, okay, or indeed in those frontline services. You'll find African people, Black people, most certainly well represented. So again, I'm not an expert. I can only go on and scrutinize the evidence that's presented to me by the professionals. Okay. And I think I might just close by saying this, that if you are in the vulnerable group, I emphasize to people, please speak to your GP. He or she are familiar with your health records and will make a judgment. We'll make a judgment as to whether or not the vaccine is an appropriate step for you to take. And what I'm mindful of is that vaccines, indeed immunizations, I suppose, are not uncommon to us. Most people in this country are already immunized or taken a vaccine. Indeed, I have been vaccinated as a child, okay, against diphtheria, whooping cough, measles, mumps, rubella or German measles, even hepatitis B, and maybe pneumonia and other diseases. Yeah, we've all been the vast majority of people here have been vaccinated. Indeed, we take it for granted, our broader general good health, because we have enjoyed that good health by default because of the early actions health professionals have advised the government that the state should invest in those vaccines which will prevent those diseases that could both cause an individual to experience a life where they are sickly or indeed shorten their lives. Okay, so we take it for granted. Now the question is about this particular vaccine. Why should we be concerned? I have to admit, I was concerned in the early days that the ability of these companies to resolve a vaccine was a very short period. How is it possible to shorten a usual clinical trial period from what is 3 to 5 or longer years down to what appears to be a few months? And I can assure you, I've quizzed health experts on these points, and what I'm assured is that the protocols that are used in the usual clinical trials have been reviewed and many of the stages have occurred simultaneously, and therefore they've been gathering the evidence to ensure the efficacy of these vaccines, that have been proposed. Now, and I also note that all vaccines approved to date have been approved on an emergency basis. In other words, they are still gathering information, and they may well, as time proceeds, modify the advice given to people, such as, for example, allergic reaction. It's a good example of the advice that has been refined as further evidence becomes available. And I've checked before coming on here today that 11.5 million people have already been vaccinated in Britain. Worldwide, it's more than 50 million people have been vaccinated. So my first step as a local politician and someone who's concerned about the best health of my people is to scrutinize those figures and understand its impact on the community. Is there evidence that the current vaccine is causing distress, and a disproportionate number of our people are either experiencing adverse effects or indeed dying as a result of the vaccine? There's no doubt that there's been reaction by some of our people. Some have suffered allergic reaction, and indeed some have died. But the proportion who've died as a result of taking a vaccine versus those who might be exposed to the virus is considerably less who have died as a result of the vaccine than might die from the virus. In other words, the vaccine is an additional a defense against what is a clear and present danger. I would say, and it's interesting, we've got health professionals here, but I find it almost inexplicable that a health professional, realizing the vulnerabilities of the groups that I've just outlined, understanding the dynamics of vaccines, and understanding that in this, there are no vaccines which are 100% safe, but understand the risk factors involved between not taking the vaccine and you're elderly, for example, and taking the vaccine and you're elderly. Clearly, all the evidence suggests that it's safer for you to take the vaccine and have some defense and not to take it and have no defense. You would never go into war without a defense. So my view is this, that whilst I may have a pretty robust response to these current maladies that are pervading the world, okay, those who have not lived my lifestyle, those who've shown evidence of a compromised immune response to other diseases, forget about COVID-19, such individuals should take the appropriate step to protect themselves against what is a clear and present danger. And if in doubt, be assured that the Chinese economies, the American economies, the European economies would not close down if this was not a clear and present danger. And let's say in closing, I'm aware that some of the, and I'm going to use the term, toxic Pan-Africanist activities, which are, from my view, extreme right-wing activities, appear to refer to the barbaric racist behavior that's occurred in the United States of America. And they refer to the Tuskegee experiment, which lasted 40 years in Alabama. And I say to my people, yes, it definitely happened. Yes, there are racist pigs in the health professions. Yes, there are racist politicians out there as well. Absolutely. Yes, yes, yes. In this country, in Britain, I always ask the question, have you seen any evidence that your GP, the GP who is familiar with your record, is in any way manipulating your record and causing you to experience diseases when it's unnecessary? Okay. Is this someone you talk to about a whole range of health-related issues, and has that GP assisted you and supported you? And if it's yes, yes, yes to each of those questions, I then ask the question, well, in that case, then consult your GP. I'm not an expert, okay, I'm not an expert myself, but consult the health professionals, and he or she will have your health interest at heart. And I think I'll pause there and I'll listen carefully to other contributors, because whilst I share all the fears of the other contributors, I've got to be really practical about this. I've got to save lives. I do not want my father to die of COVID-19. I do not want my cousin who has diabetes to die of COVID-19. I do not want constituents who suffer from heart conditions to die of COVID-19. They all have compromised immune systems, and therefore whatever steps I can take to protect them from this clear and present danger, I will. And I would recommend, therefore, under those circumstances, they go to their GPs, and I suspect the GPs will recommend take the vaccine on this occasion. Great job, Ross.
Okay, Motivator. Thanks for that. So now I'd like to try Sister Kandake again. See if you're having a better luck this time.
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay, yes, yeah, that seems to be a lot better. Okay.
Okay, good. Okay, good. So, why do Black people not want to take, people of African Caribbean descent not want to take the vaccine? The very fact that we are here speaking now is as a direct result of one group of people, the Europeans, snatching us, taking us from our homes in Africa, enslaving us for 400 years and more. And then, as a result of them going into war and needing Black people to come to places like the UK, and our parents coming here, and just up to last year and the year before, we see the results, even though they've been here for 50 years, you know, the whole Windrush thing, and the fact that, you know, Churchill didn't want us here, the government didn't want us here, and there had been means to block us as our brothers and sisters in America, where you can't get certain housing. We've had to fight for equality. So that's the first thing. We were brought here as a result from a people who showed us no love, but actually had us as cattle, had us as herd. So that would be the first thing that raise any normal person's suspicion, especially if you're still living in the house of the person who killed your mother and father and you're in their home. We've had to continually stress and fight for certain things. So this is just in response to the question as to why Black people. So we have all of that. We've been living with the everyday tussle and hustle and bustle. And then this pandemic breaks out. So, and I just want to put a pause there, and I'm going to come back to this pandemic breaks out now. If we get the fact that we were taken from our homelands, African people naturally have an affinity to the nature and to God. We believe in God, at least we say we do. Yeah. So we believe in a higher intelligence. We believe in a higher force. That has always been the case for any part of Africa you go. Some minority may have changed, but we're a God-fearing people. Now, if we take evolution, say, human beings have been on the planet at least, maybe say we say 500,000, a million, but let's just say modern man, it's more than that, but let's even we say 100,000 years we've been on the planet. Yeah, I think everyone would accept that human beings have been on the planet at least that long. Okay. Now, during that time, human beings have been able to navigate. In fact, our tradition is to live with nature. Viruses are an integral part of nature. As the brother was speaking before, are found, in fact, they're so abundant, and you find them everywhere. They're an abundant entity on the planet. In fact, and this is from the scientists, if you line them up, they would stretch from one side of the galaxy to another. If you take a teaspoon of seawater, you would find about 1 million viruses there. Human beings are made up of at least 8% viral DNA. It is a part of the natural environment. And they say at least 40% of our cell lines are viral in origin, which means that viruses are in us. It allows us to live, to survive. It's a part of us. It's a part of the ecosystem. The human body is a living organism, a highly intelligent living organism, meaning that the human body, to grow, to do what it does, to all the cells moving in the body, you know, the nutrients going into the different cells. The human being has no conscious part in that. That is done by a higher intelligence. The human body, what is it made of? This physical entity. It's made of what we now know as the elements: carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, magnesium, potassium, etc., etc. So the human must feed from the earth to feed this living organism for it to continue. So this, let's call it this human machine, is amazingly made already. There is not one human being who is responsible to say, okay, heart, keep beating throughout the day and then I'll take over when you're tired, or lungs, keep breathing and then I'll take over when the food goes in, okay, I'm going to tell this nutrient to go to the knee, this one to go to the eye. No, an inner intelligence does that. So we are talking about supreme intelligence here. Now, human beings have been on the planet, let's just say, we no longer, but let's just say 100,000 years. It means that for 99,999 years at least, human beings have been able to manage themselves with viruses, with bacteria, with pathogens, with parasites. They've managed to survive. Now, all of a sudden, in the last 100 or 200 years, where you have an industry, now an industry means it is profit driven. You have now an industry which is making, and we're going to talk about vaccines and then this experimental drug that's come out. For profit, human beings have now gotten to a stage where they can no longer take care of themselves. After 99,000 years, in 100 years, what happened? So that's my first question. What happened to the human being why we are no longer able to take care of things like viruses, which incidentally, when we came on the planet, were already here, so it's nothing new. In fact, ancient traditions tell you about variolae, where in African societies, in Chinese societies, in Indian societies, they use the same sickness or the virus. They would insert it into the person and they would get an immune reaction, and then they would get a lesser immune. So as in smallpox, for example, in China, they used a method of, somebody had the smallpox scab, they would take the scab, powder it and blow it up into the person's nose. They'd get a slight reaction, but they would just get a mild reaction and not get the full-blown disease and die. So that was what they call variolae, which is vaccination. Instead of them injecting it, they blew it up into your nose. So the idea of exposing the human immune system to a lesser form of a pathogen and then allowing the body's natural innate ability to make antibodies was always known. Let's get that clear. Humans knew this. And by the time Edward Jenner came to make the first vaccine, he was so-called only mass produced it. the aristocracy in England were already using that because they were exposed to the Arab world and the other worlds, and they were aware. So the aristocracy in the UK were already using this form of variolae, which became known as vaccinations. Now, so we had the Industrial Revolution, which was the third revolution, and out of that revolution came different industries. Now, let's forward into this recent pandemic, because the question I would ask is, have human beings gone backwards in their ability to take care? Because any living organism, its first thing is to survive. Your first instinct is to survive. Human beings have known how to survive. Now, Brother Taharkah, could you play that clip for me, please? Now, when COVID first came around, across the globe, we witnessed particular scenes that grabbed the whole world's attention. Now, I don't know if that's showing, Brother Taharkah. I don't know if that's showing.
Hold on, for some reason it's, let's see, I try it again.
If you could just rewind it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, if you could just put it back to the beginning. It's only about 30 seconds.
No,
And
for some
if you're
reason,
not, so in the meantime, I'll try and let me see if I can make it.
yeah, if you can load it up again. I'll skip this one.
Okay.
Out.
Oh, there it is.
Where's oh, she's gone out. Okay, she's dropped out for. All right, while she gets back in, for some reason we can carry on while. I'm not sure she's okay. She's back in. Hold on.
Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, you're back in now. You dropped out for a bit, so you're back in. Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. Hear me? Okay. So I don't.
Hold on, you.
So did the people?
No,
If not,
you're breaking up. You're breaking up a bit.
People in China.
Yeah. No, no, you're breaking up.
And
can we try and let the thing run smoothly, because there's people watching? So
yeah, I know. Yes, Sister Kandake, if you can log out and log back in, you're breaking up. You're just freezing all the time. All right, what I'll do, I'll take her out and try and work on something. Okay, so what I'll do, while I try and sort that out, I like to bring in Sister Theresa.
Hi.
Yeah. So if you could just give your take on why Black people are very reluctant to take these vaccines for us.
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity. I like to start with just a calming down moment. So anybody who wants to participate, if they would just take a minute to breathe in twice very sharply and breathe out through their nose. Thank you. The reason I do this is because I want to connect you back to the wisdom of the body and the power that the body offers us. Now, what my contribution tonight is to explain to you what happens to a child when they're born, what is given to them to support them through the life, and why I believe that Black people are questioning this moment in time and what is offered to them. So when you are conceived, you are coached inside of your mother's womb, and you are there for the duration, if you can, 9 months. In that 9 months, you have all the preparation that you need for life. She shares her body with you. She shares all of her structures with you. And then you come through the birth canal. And while you're coming through the birth canal, you are given all of the microbiomes that you will need for life. That is the purpose of the birth in the natural way. Now, once you come through the birthing canal, the vaginal canal, and you are given breast milk, that is the second stage of developing your ability to survive on the planet. That is your microbiome development from your ancestry, your heritage. Every nationality has a different microbiome. They haven't even spoken about that. So our ancestors' microbiome is in us today, passed through the lineage of the mother giving birth in the natural way. And there's been competition for this natural way of bringing life into the world. They've created a system, just to touch on one thing, called a cesarean. Now, people will say, well, that's not fair. Some people are ill and they have to have it. Fair enough. That is a procedure for somebody who's having an illness around the birthing of their child. But opting for cesarean as a fashion is in competition to the natural way of birthing. And you ask yourself, why would they bring a system in knowing what a mother offers a child when it comes to living in this planet, in the microbiome? Why would they offer cesarean? And why would they offer cow's milk, formula milk, instead of the breast milk? As a fashion, as a procedure they call normal and natural. So it occurred to me that there's a competition going on. So I have to ask myself, why is there a competition? Why are they trying to compete with nature? And the reason I've come to is that there's a reason, which is to control this powerful body called the human, who are connected to 11 levels of the universe, and who is backwards and forward with all the frequencies that we have as we wake up to who we are. They are wanting to take hold of those powers, but they're doing it through the back door. They're doing it through creating a science called pharmacy. Now, we had medicine before, and then they created a system called alternative medicine and pushed our medicine into the alternative world. Our medicine has been around since humans have been around. We live in symbiosis to nature. We live with herbal, holistic, natural plants for healing. And we've always done that. That's how we've survived to this day. But they were so audacious that they called our medicine, who's been around for so long, alternative. And their medicine, which has just been around for a few hundred years, the real medicine. And people are following and listening to this. That's another point that kind of stopped me in my tracks and made me go deeper and understand, who are they competing with and why? Why would they be competing with birthing and mothering and creating through the natural structures? So now they want to go into the body. They've explored the planet. They've explored the world. And they've made most of the world very passive. through the profit principle. Everybody's medication is going to somebody else to find out about yourself. You have your body with you 24/7. Every minute of the day, you're with your body. But if something goes wrong with your body, you're encouraged to go outside of that body and go and find out about your body. Now, how can that be natural? How can that be sensible? Now they've done all the exploring of the world, all the landmass, all the ecosystem, the habitats, they've touched it all. They've actually damaged most of the planet, and they've got a new place they want to explore now, and that is inside of the body. The latest science is around the microbiome, and the microbiome is the new place they want to come and explore. And why do they want to come and explore there? They've only got 1 to 2% of the biochemistry of the human body that they've understood, only 1 to 2%. And in that 1 to 2%, they want to send messengers inside of this space to come and change and speak to and direct the microbiomes that we've had with us for all of this time that human beings have been on the planet. Why would they want to do something like that? They've gone and done GMO on the plants, and they've given the plants. We have grapes that have no seeds now. We have plants that have no possibility of reproducing themselves. Now, I have to ask the question, why are they so curious in getting into the spaces called the microbiome? This is the latest science. Why are they rushing to go in there and to try to communicate and send messengers inside of that system that is our body? We have a structure in our body that is proved its time through the millennials that we live in harmony with nature. We have an emotional part of us, we have a structural part of us, and we have a biochemistry part of us. And we live in symbiosis with nature, with all of those parts. Now, they interfered with our emotions, and they've got a lot of knowledge about how we think, how we behave, how we interact with each other, what can persuade us to buy, and all kinds of emotional things that we don't even know about, how the human can be persuaded. Then they moved on to the structure of the body. They interfered with us, stopping us from moving, stopping us from being outside in natural light, encouraging us to come into the home and spend most of our time indoors under artificial light, which is very destructive to us. We're meant to be outside in nature, in the daylight, and resting at night in the night darkness. That's how our body is created. The way that they have interfered is also now moving into the biochemistry. And this is where we're right now in the moment. The circadian rhythm has got the plants in nature, it's got us in nature, but now they've found a new science, and they've decided now they've won the emotional battle, they've won the structural battle, they've got us locked in the house. Now they want to win the chemistry of how our cells and our organs and our vagus nerve and our pineal gland and our microbiome and our gut, everything, how they communicate to each other inside of the body. And I would pause everybody and say, given all the words I've just used, ask yourself the question, if they only know 1 to 2% about us in the internal organizer way we work, all the systems and structures that were given to us by our ancestors, by our mothers, why are they coming inside to try now to talk to those systems and use their way of communicating? And they're not even guaranteeing that their communication is going to be in harmony. It's going to be holistic. They're just saying we're coming in. This is a new science, and it's because it's new, you should trust us. Like everything new is the best. Now, that's why I'm encouraging people, don't listen to me. I'm not a doctor. I do my research and I understand how the body works. The way the body works is eating natural, live food. Most people are on their way to functional illness. And when something happens to them, like the doctor said, you are going to have a problem because your body is not healthy. healthy. There's a lot of toxins that has to come out of the body. And if you are not well, why not use the natural way of getting well rather than putting in a pharmaceutical way, which by nature is a drug. It's a process that is going to create a reaction in your body, and it's going to be treated in your body as a drug. These are dangerous things that they're doing, and they're shutting down all debates and all conversation and all alternative voices. Why are they doing that? If they're so sure that their way is better than Mother Nature, why don't they let us have a public conversation and stop shutting us down and making people be too scared to even have the conversation? That's really my contribution. Mother Nature has kept us going. All of these millennials, they have a system through the birthing canal and through the breast milk. And every which way they can, they've been trying to get hold of those contributions that our ancestors has given us. And today they've found a way in, and they want to get permission from us to allow them to go and explore. But we haven't even understood Mother Nature properly. So why would we go and listen to them? Why would we take in what they're saying when we haven't even understood? Eating green, live food builds your blood. Drinking clean water builds your body. Eating food that has got life in it strengthens you. Spending time in nature, walking on the earth, being in the sunshine is what builds our immune system. This is where we've been all these centuries battling all of the viruses, bacteria, and fungi that is around. We know this, but we are now all of a sudden got amnesia. Why? Why do we have amnesia now? That's the reason that I'm saying what I'm saying, because all of these traditional ways has got us this far. Why are we now pausing and saying we don't know how to look after ourselves? We don't know how to manage our health going forward. As the human race all of a sudden stopped being human and we've become something else now? That's my contribution at the moment. It really is about understanding this beautiful gift that we've been given, which is a body, and it's our responsibility to look after and nobody else's. And we should not be persuaded to let people experiment on us if we don't fully understand what their end goal is, given that we don't understand the holistic nature of who we are yet, because they've only done 1 to 2% of understanding themselves. So how can they be qualified to get involved in our structures? We are a spiritual people. There are parts of us that only get turned on when we're fully activated with a healthy body. We haven't even had a chance to have a healthy body yet. And now they want to add to it, and by adding their version of what they call life. They've got a mechanistic way of looking at life. We've got a spiritual way of looking at life, as the sister said. And it's two different conversations, two different starting points. And we've just got to go back to what we know and stop being led by people who don't know very much about who we are and why we're here and what is our purpose and what we've come to do. Our ancestors did not survive all of those things they survived for us now today to act like we have got no sense. We've got plenty of sense. Let's start using it. Let's start activating those senses by eating right and living right. We have water, we have sunshine, and we have the earth. And we have a great structure. We have emotions, and we have a body's bone structure, and we have a biochemistry structure, all given to us freely by our mothers and our ancestors. It's not something that we should throw away quickly because somebody has got a good marketing ploy and got a good channel that is called a television or the internet and is giving us a persuasive argument. Get to know who you are, why you're here. What is this about? What have you been given life for? That's my question. Are you going to be a passive person, or are you actually going to be a person that gets educated and understands what it is that you're possibly going to give away because of somebody having a persuasive argument? That's my contribution at the moment. Thank you.
Not hearing you, Brother Taharkah. Hello?
Yeah, Sister Kandake, you're muted. Okay.
Okay, yes. I wasn't sure if you wanted to speak now. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah, fine. Yep.
Can
Yeah,
you
we
hear
can
me?
hear you. Yes, I can
Okay,
hear you
give
loud and
thanks.
clear.
Okay. So, all right, good. So let me just go back to where I was at the time. And I just want to say, so at the very beginning of this pandemic, we saw people falling down in China, literally just doing this and dropping, and the whole world saw that, and everybody started to look, stress, tension. What is this thing that's coming out? Oh my gosh, it's coming from China. Nobody knew what this was. Now, the video that I was trying to show was one that most of us would have probably seen on our phones, because somehow this went viral, and it was images, actually it was on the news, of people literally dropping. Do you remember seeing those images of people falling down in China before it hit the world?
Yep.
Now, most of us will remember seeing those images. Okay. When have we ever seen those images since that? Has that been the reality of COVID since those first images? If not, and I have never seen it since those ones in China, why were those images associated with COVID-19? It had nothing to do with COVID-19, as has subsequently been proven. We've seen, but in the beginning, when the whole world had their eyes on China, that is what we associated COVID-19 with, these things that can just knock you out and kill you on the ground. Then it disappeared. Why? Okay. So then we come down the line, and we see that there is something out there. I work within the health professional and profession, and as the politician brother said, in his constituency there are people. I know people who's passed. I've had to be giving herbs to people. I've seen people who have had a respiratory issue. Now, it was very interesting that there was a doctor in South Africa. Some of you may have seen the video. Now, the World Health Organization gave a strict edict that doctors must not do any kind of put any kind of instrument to look down the respiratory tract. That was, you weren't supposed to do that. He broke that rule because he was giving his patients the oxygen, and they were dying. And as I wanted to find out what was going on, anyway, he looked inside the respiratory tract and he saw plugs of mucus. Once he saw that, he began to remove those plugs of mucuses, and the people survived. Okay, so we've seen that people with comorbidities, people with asthma, people with weakened immune system, which would be true for any kind of pathogen that hits any kind of organism whose defense structure is weakened. It's a normal thing within society, within life. It's just normal. If you're weakened, then you're vulnerable to attack. There's nothing new about that. Okay, so yes, we have this vaccine, but this experimental, why it's experimental is because, as again our brother quite rightly said, this has been licensed under an emergency ruling, so it has not come out under normal. So then we can call it, if it had come out under normal legislature, normal vaccine times that are given, we would know it's passed through the necessary stages. But because it hasn't, we know it's in an experimental stage. Yeah. Now, the issue is with vaccines, you give the person something that will stimulate the innate immune system, and the B cells, or just say the cells in your body, will then activate your antibodies. With the mRNA, that is not what's happening, is it? They've already told you it doesn't act like a normal vaccine, because they've been trying to make a normal vaccine for all these years and they couldn't come up with one. Now, you have bio and you have technology. The technology part is those who work in the technological field. So these are the engineers, the people who work in that field. And then you have the bio, the ones who deal with natural life. And those two have come together. So if you look at Bill Gates, for example, Bill Gates was not schooled in medicine. His field is not healthcare, but it's a business that he has. His area is what? Biotechnology, software. That's his business. He also now has moved into the medical area, and now you've got biotechnology, which you have with Moderna. So the vaccines do not stimulate the immune system to do what it was built to do naturally, and that is to make the vaccine, the antibodies. It instead instructs the DNA. So, okay, it might not change the DNA, but it changes what the DNA does, and makes and the DNA, and then tells the DNA to make this COVID spike, so that your immune system now is being instructed by something that is foreign. That is not how a vaccine works. The vaccine stimulates your B cells. So the technological part now has come in with the bio part, and that is scary. Why? Because as we've said, it's the first time that it's been trialed on the whole planet. I mean, if that doesn't make you answer questions, why is something from an engineering field coming into into life, and then have the audacity to say that you must put this trial in your body? Now, any normal person wants to survive. And if we said, okay, you know, there's a chance of you dying, most people are going to run to something that's going to help them. Nobody just wants to sit and die. So we're not looking at people who just want to sit and die. But they have high suspicions, especially we of people of African Caribbean descent, because as quite rightly was said before, time after time after time after time, these same companies that are now putting this vaccine out into the world have experimented on our people. In fact, cases are still going on in court right now and have caused damage and harm. Now, these are profit-driven companies, and my question is, when did the ethical and moral stature of these people behind the company, when did it change? I would be happy, because my goal is to preserve life. So I would be more than happy to see that the ethics which govern these companies have changed from the times that they were experimenting on people and causing harm and loss of life, which they have had to pay payouts for. And these were on drugs or vaccines which were being trialed and had been trialed over time. This is a completely new thing. Now, I have worked alongside doctors, and I still work alongside doctors. And I agree with my brother when he says, when you go to the doctor, you know, do you not see that he generally has your your welfare in mind? Yes, because these healthcare professionals studied for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, how many years to take care of people. And let's just say the Hippocratic oath that they genuinely want to help people. That I take on board because I've seen it. And sometimes I've seen where their hands are tied. They want to do something and their hands are tied. But that is not the issue. When you go to the doctors and then he diagnoses you, his part finishes there, because he or she herself is not the one who makes the medicine. That healthcare provider must now turn to an industry which is profit driven to go and get the very same things that you need to help you. That is the difference. They are the healthcare providers, yes. Their job is to assess you, to look at you and see what's wrong, but they do not go and make the medicines to heal you. There comes the divide. I'm going to just pause there for a while and let somebody else speak.
Sorry, my
Brother
mic was mute.
Taharkah, if you're speaking, yeah.
No, yeah. Sorry. Yeah, for calling Elder Pepukayi at this time. And then after that, we just open the floor for more general discussion.
Is that hearing you? Well, Pepukayi can hear?
I'm coming.
Oh.
I'm not used to the technology, you see. Right. Okay. Where do we begin with this? Let me start with my parental grandmother, who is my greatest teacher. I learned more from her than what I learned in my 7 or so years in school. In those 7 years, it's just about 2 things I can remember in my school life. The subject was geography, and our teacher began to talk about Montserrat. And all of us as children began to laugh. And we said, "Eat rat down there." And the teacher laughed with us. The teacher never said, "Look, you're the same people. You all come from Africa. It was only a question who was dropped off where. That is any difference. We are one people." The teacher never told us that. In fact, she went on to talk about how Europe, and in particular Britain, was so industrialized that you could put all the bits, wheel, bonnet, doors, you name it, of a motor vehicle in one machine, and it would roll out at the other end a finished product. And that isn't true, because up to now, when robots are more frequently used in industry, you don't have bits thrown into a machine and it roll out at the other end. So there was no education there. It was just colonial brainwashing. My grandmother teaching in Proverbs and wise saying, and I could quote reams of them, which is my reference point to this day. And I will start with two of them. The first one is that believe kill and believe cure. And God is no respecter of persons, nor persons. And that last one, God is no respecter of persons or persons, have occupied my mind for quite a long time. And if I was to ask the question, do you believe in God? The overwhelming response would be, of course I believe in God. And if I was to follow up the question with who and what is God, you would ask, where is he going with this? My mother would think her son has gone stark raving mad. He has lost it. And the answer to this question, to the majority of you, if not all of you, will get it wrong. Because the God question is the greatest deception ever. This great deception imprisons the best of us. The greatest weapon in the arsenal of Eurasian collective, the white race, is deception. White people is the master of deception. When I was a child, I read a lot. Anything I could get my hands on, I would be my reading material. And there's one particular story that etched in my mind from childhood, and it's a story of the Trojan horse and the warning that comes with it. Beware of the Greeks come bearing gifts. We Africans have not heeded this serious warning, and we make this mistake over and over at our peril. Let me go back to the question. Who and what is God? There's a common held belief that God made man in his image and likeness. There's no evidence to support this. There's abundant evidence to support the reverse. White man made God in his image and likeness. The proof of what I'm saying is in plain sight, yet the majority of people are blind to the naked truth. God is a mass murderer, a criminal of the worst kind who goes against his own laws. For example, the belief is, I am a jealous God. You should have no other God but me. The same God says this. Jealousy is a sin. Yet you say God is loving and merciful. And we believe in God and ignore his wicked behavior. And when reminded about God's transgression, we all become liars of God working pro bono. God don't find none of us, and God don't pay none of us. But we are working for God and defending God and telling lies for God. The mistake we're making here is we see God and our concept of the supreme entity as the same thing. It is not. All people question themselves. Who am I? Why am I here? All this amazing reality coming to being. What is existence? The answer to this complex and challenging question is simple. existence. The term nothingness does not exist. There's nothing called nothing. There's always something. There's no end to it. It just changes. And these changes manifest in all kind of ways. For example, if I give any of you a barrel of sand, and you was walking with this barrel of sand, and one grain of the sand drop out of the barrel, would you stop and pick up this grain of sand? No, you wouldn't. You'd continue walking. And this is what it would mean in terms of earth that we live on and all the other entities that make up existence. So we have to be critically in our thinking. We must defend our European values. Where those Europeans goes when we talk about discovery of other peoples? How did they abuse the hospitality and kindness of the people who they met in their journey and who have shown them so much hospitality? For example, we Africans would say to a stranger, you couldn't bring your house with you, so stay into this house. We didn't have the concept of a hotel. The Inuit people, who they call the Eskimo, if you were to visit them, they would give up their wife to the stranger. And they would say, you didn't bring your wife, have mine while you're here. Oh, generous and hospitality. I wouldn't do it. If you didn't bring your wife, stay without until you go back to your wife. You're not going to share my wife. But the Inuit people, they were so genuine, they were so loving, they were so kind. But the question is, how did the European show gratitude for such abundant hospitality and kindness? So I say that to say that we must begin to question things and don't just accept it and blind faith. Because we're looking at this vaccine and we're not looking at all loads of stuff. This vaccine jump out at us and we get frightened. And in fact, it's not even a vaccine. I was listening to one scientist, and I'm not a scientist. I'm not in the medical profession at all. I'm just a layperson who's trying to use the brain that they come into this world with. And he said, a vaccine is a legal entity. It has a legal definition. And a vaccine is when you collect some of the virus and you mix it up with whatever they make vaccine with. You put it into the body, and that's supposed to become a defense mechanism. As Sister Kandake, who's a medical professional, told us, that is a vaccine. What they're putting together is not a vaccine. So straight away, it's a deception. We've been deluded, been called to take a substance which is not a vaccine. It's a concoction that will only do more harm than damage. Do more harm than good. And the stuff that we're not looking at, we're not looking at nanoparticles, we're not looking at transhumanism, we're not looking at AI, we're not looking at the New World Order, we're not looking at Agenda 21, we're not looking at the Internet of Things, we're not looking at currency. We're not looking at GMO weaponized food. My sister mentioned it earlier in her presentation. We're not looking at 5G, and I could go on with a whole host of other things. Let me conclude by saying that when these MPs came out and recommend to us Africans, because these were all African MPs and maybe one or two Asian thrown among them, and they were recommending that we take this so-called vaccine. Now, I ask yourself this question: when ever you ever see a cross-party of MPs, every single one of them so united that we should take this vaccine, this so-called vaccine? When Steve Lawrence was brutally murdered, was there this coalition? No. When they invite us here to build war Britain, and Sister Kandake remind us, and they begin to kick us out, that they're going to bring in thousands of Chinese from Hong Kong who never do nothing for Britain. We come here and build up Britain. They're going to chuck us out. Where was those MPs unite to defend us? In fact, when I saw Diane Abbott in the lot, I could cry. You know why? She is the elder of all those MPs. She was one of the original three. Bernie Grant, who we love, respect, because he was not a career politician. He was a convicted politician, committed to his people. And that's why he's dead. I don't believe he died naturally. And the reason why I believe he died, because he took up reparation. Now, can you imagine a British MP, as committed as he was, pick up reparation? And you know, he was not going to mess about with it. He was going to take it to its full conclusion. That means Britain and all European countries pay compensation for all the evil that they've done to us. And he was linked up to the incoming president, Abiola, of Nigeria. Now, Nigeria is a sleeping giant. If Nigeria wake up, Nigeria will be powerhouse to free the entire black world back up by Jamaica. Those two countries, little Jamaica, punch far above his weight, and Nigeria punch down in his weight. If both of them come together, they'll turn this world upside down and put it right side up. Now, I'm saying here that that president never come to office. He was murdered in jail. And the last person to see him was the American ambassador. But anyway, let's move along a bit. Why are those MPs telling us that we should take this vaccine? And I believe they came under tremendous pressure, because most of them were Labour MPs, as most black MPs are. But the Labour opposition is as just like the Conservative. They both in the same boat. And I believe that's why Jeremy Corbyn was beaten before he even went in the election. They didn't want him to win, because there's no way Jeremy Corbyn that I know, and I'm no friend of Jeremy Corbyn. I just know him as one of the MPs, politician who is a little bit fair. So when they attack him that he was anti-racist, he was anti-Semitic, that was a lie. You wouldn't find a more anti-Semitic, a more anti-racist white man than Jeremy Corbyn. But they didn't want him to become Prime Minister. They want liar Boris. Boris still lie about Europe taking away Britain's wealth.
Brother Pepukayi.
Yes.
All right, let's try and stick to the topic, Pepukayi. We're just drifting well. No,
I'm coming
I
to
mean,
you.
everybody kind of.
Hold on. I'm coming
I mean,
to you.
we're here to address a specific thing, and people
Yes.
are waiting. I'm going to open up the discussion now,
I'm
so
coming to close my talk.
we can do that.
Yes, the point I'm making, that we need to also question what is this all about. And it's not just about vaccine that we're focusing on. It's a bigger picture, it's a wider picture. And the quicker we get our hand around that, the quicker we can solve this madness.
Okay. All right. So at this point, everybody's spoken. So what I like to do now is just open up the panel in general. So if there's anything else people are burning to say, just come through to say. But please just try, and we're here to say specifically why Black people are reluctant to take this vaccine. So if we could just concentrate on those particular points. I mean, what I'll do, I'll put up some kind of teasers here. As we can see, there's been a long history, it's been touched upon briefly, of medical abuse, medical mistreatment, negligence, discrimination, and medical incompetence. For instance, we have here Marion Sims. And if people are not familiar with who this doctor was a doctor who experimented on African women. And he's referred to as the father of gynecology. And he experimented on them using no anesthetic. Of course, we had the Tuskegee experiments, which was mentioned. We also had Henrietta Lacks, whose cells was taken secretly and has been used over the years to generate hundreds of millions of pounds without her family being informed. Then, of course, we had the rollout of the polio vaccine across Africa. And for whatever reason, a lot of that vaccine was contaminated with the AIDS virus. And then we had not so long ago the tetanus vaccine in Kenya. And when it was analyzed, it was found that it contained the drug Depo-Provera, which is a sterilizing agent. So when we say, why are African people, why are Black people so reluctant, we can look directly at some of the reasons why we are reluctant to take the vaccines, because there's been a history of, how can I put it, mistreatment of us. I mean, at present, we are told that the outcome, if an African person, a Black person going to hospital, the outcome will always be worse than, say, a European person. We had a case in America of a doctor herself in the hospital, had COVID, seen the treatment she was given. Now, her being a doctor was trying to correct them or say, look, you should be doing X, Y, and Z. And she said she was ignored and she ended up dying. So we have that racist element. So I just like people to talk to them. Anybody feel free now can come in.
Can I just say, I want to focus on what I see. I don't see people talking about history in terms of why they're not willing to take this vaccine. That's not a common thing I come across. And I am in a lot of groups and I get individual videos from people and all of that. And people are not sharing that sort of stuff. So okay. I want us to, because we are in this moment and people have serious decisions to make, for example, about vaccine. So how do they make it? It was mentioned the fact that we should trust the health professionals because they are sincere and they have our best interests at heart. But I did make a point quoting this doctor, Dr. Susan Humphreys. And she stated, unless somebody wants to sort of challenge that she's not telling the truth, she's saying doctors are not taught about what they put in vaccine and how it's, the ingredients or how it's manufactured. For example, the common flu vaccine, one of the ingredients they put in it is formaldehyde, which is another name for embalming fluid. How many people know that? Why would you put something that embalm dead body in the common flu vaccine? But I'm saying, if we go by what the doctor is saying, the relevance of our point is she's saying doctors are not, this is not something they learn in medical school. Always made. So in other words, that's the pharmaceutical, which one of the sisters mentioned earlier, right? So we have that to consider in terms of who do we take advice from. Are they qualified to speak? It's not about whether or not they're sincere or not. Do they know what is it that we're getting into? The other thing that I'm saying, the elephant in the room, is the fact that if this was about the immune system, because people, the whole argument centers around that this is all about the immune system. If this was about the immune system, doesn't logic suggest that those of us with the weakest immune system would die? But we don't see that. Babies are not dying. Children are not dying. So that, what does that tell the logical brain? That this is not about the immune system. Okay, what's the difference between you have the baby situation, you've got the people with pre-existing condition. So the ones that die the most are the ones with pre-existing condition, right? So we say, well, what is it that makes, what is the difference here? The pre-existing condition, that's the difference. Why the baby is not dying and the baby doesn't have much of an immune system compared to an adult? The baby don't have pre-existing condition. It's not ill. So why, but we are still letting them make us focus on the virus as the main issue and the immune system. And I'm saying it's staring us in the face. This is about, just like the sister Kandake mentioned that video with the South African doctor that looks inside of the lung. And the thing that was amazing about this is two things. One, they are saying that the WHO advised not to do that procedure. First thing, I didn't know that the WHO can tell doctors what to do. I didn't know that. Secondly, why would they advise not to do such a procedure when it's not, I can't say that's dangerous. The third thing is that they're saying he's the first one to have done this procedure. Now, here it is, we have a disease that is a respiratory disease. And nobody thinks it necessary to look inside the lung. And we are saying these are geniuses. They are brilliant. They're professionals. They know what they're doing. And here's they're saying he's the first one to look. And when he looked in the lung, he saw these mucus. The other point is, and this is something I'm advising people to do. And we are in the information age, right? If you're going to be afraid of something, and we're talking specific to do this thing, you're going to be afraid of viruses. There's two things you want to do, right? At least know what is it you're afraid of. So go and look up what is a virus. At least get a definition in your mind as to what it is and how does it behave. Secondly, to be more specific, how does a virus supposed to cause death? Let me tell you what they claim. They're saying that the virus, for anything to kill you, it has to destroy flesh, tissue. That's the only way you're going to die. It has to destroy a vital organ. These are just basic fundamental common sense, right? So that video that we saw, the South African doctor, we saw the image in his lung, the camera. We saw what the lung looked like. And they're saying for the virus what other virus kill, according to them, is that it inflamed the lungs. So you expect to see the lungs look like it's been totally messed up. Because if the person is on the verge of dying, you'd expect to see the lungs in a serious condition. We didn't see nothing wrong with the flesh, the tissue of the lung, except that there was mucus in it. And I'm saying to you that the alternative view is that the virus, one of the things that they claim that governments can research, is that they have never demonstrated in history that a virus can destroy healthy tissue. They have only showed virus operate in mucus and decay. That's something governments, if they're serious, instead of just leaving these people to give them this ultimate power and do no checks and balance on them, even though they're driven by profit, they can go and check that out and find out, have they ever tested a virus on healthy tissue? And here it is now, we see the evidence that the doctor looked and he didn't, I look in there and I saw the flesh was not destroyed. And all the doctor did to make these people have a full recovery is to get rid of the mucus. Nothing to do with the tissue of the cells, none at all, right? And I'm saying this is what we need to zero in and to understand that we don't get confused about what is going on here, right? It's all about the fact that there is mucus, the same reason why when we have the flu, we come up with a lot of mucus. And we said, why is it so? We said, people who are pre-existing condition, is it about the immune system? No, they have a lot more. They would have waste in the system, mucus, decay in the system, because when your body is ill, doesn't it produce more waste if you're ill than a person who's healthy? Because healthy person, every human being produce waste. We are saying that the alternative view is that a healthy person would produce more, a sick person would produce more waste. And if they're on the same destructive diet that most of us are on, then you can see when that argument, that other explanation says, when you produce that excessive waste, that is the environment that the germs will thrive in. And the virus is just, if you look up the definition of a virus, it's just a small germ. It's a bit more smaller than a normal germ. It's just a tiny germ, right? It's still a germ. And it only functions in rot and decay. They have never demonstrated that it can destroy healthy tissue. That is why babies don't die from it, even though the immune system is not weak. That's the only logical explanation why babies would not die from something that is deadly, because it doesn't operate on healthy bodies. It's that simple.
Okay.
If I may come in?
Yeah, just before you come in, there's a question addressed specifically to Devon. I don't know if you'd like to just quickly comment on it.
Sure.
No, I'll just put it up. Can I see it? It says, are you presently following the government guidelines? Have you ever had coronavirus? Are you aware of what it feels like?
Okay, I have not had any of those. And I can also point out, because from I was growing up, they tell you that you catch a cold or you catch the flu. Yes? Mm-hmm. And then as some of you might know, I have worked in doing cuttings people here for over 30 years. So I've been in people's face 6 days, 7 days a week. The last time I had the flu was 1989. Now you tell me, we have an alternative medical view, you know. As the sister pointed out, this new medicine started a few hundred years ago, right? And now up to about the 1800s, if you go into a shop in America, you would buy herbs, natural substances, and then the pharmaceutical take over, and then suddenly we have now accepted a medicine that predominantly treats symptoms. That's not a secret. That's not controversial. It doesn't cure, but we say they are experts, right? So the point I'm getting at, what's the chance of me being in people's face 6 days a week for 30 odd years and I don't catch the flu? If the flu was something you catch from people, right? The way that it's been explained to us. And when I was going, it was, oh, the rain wet you or you leave the window open, you catch the flu. That's always been a myth. We are saying there's an alternative viewpoint to explain all of this, and it's about the body's health. The fact that we have a toxic environment, and therefore the germs that are normally harmless to us become harmful because the body is toxic. And then, so in other words, that is why people do what? Detoxification, which the pharmaceutical would not be able to, that's not their thing, because there's no money to make from detox. It has to come with something that they can patent. That's the explanation. And if we allow them to continue to dominate the world like this, because this is the first time they flex their muscle and lock down the world, they're going to do it again. And they will keep, every 3 years, they usually come up with a scare and get us to do more vaccine. Initially, it was at one time, that's one last point. Initially, you take the vaccine, once you've had the thing, and your body build up your immune system, that was it. They said, no. Now you need a booster every year. So suddenly they keep changing the science. Oh, yeah, you have immune system, fine. No, you need booster. And now and every year you need to get a booster. So they just change the business model, right? And we are there looking on thinking, oh, we trust them because we're not questioning anything they do, including governments. They become victims themselves.
Okay. All right. So the motivator?
Yes. Thank you. Mm-hmm. And thank you, Devon. It's always, on one hand, you acknowledge the virus is dangerous. You acknowledge the immune response in certain categories of people overreacts and create mucus and that's the primary cause for some people experiencing long COVID onward symptoms, and some indeed who die from it. Yeah. But yet, and I don't know if you come from, I know you're from the Caribbean, so we have the same tradition on how to maintain our health. Yep, we have the same tradition. Got not a problem with that. But I've learned, because I'm now old enough, that despite the fact that those are our traditions, there are significant numbers of our people in this country, in Europe, in America, and beyond, who don't follow our traditions anymore. They don't. As you say, they eat foods which are poisonous to them. These processed foods ultimately are poisonous to you over long periods of time. Yep. As you say, this is a toxic environment they're in. So our immune systems are really working hard to survive in this toxic environment. So you acknowledge all of that. Here's the challenge, though, for you, Devon, and others, sir. And I suppose if you were an elected official whose people's lives are potentially in your hands, you might be, forgive me, less cavalier. And what do I say that? Despite the fact I live a particular lifestyle, and I don't want to commit other their lives to one that is less than satisfactory. Therefore, I'm willing to say to those people who don't live the lifestyle we lead, okay, one in which we fast, we reduce the amount of salt, sugar, we ensure that fat is in the right proportion, the right types of fat. We drink the right amount of water. We focus on fruits and vegetables. We exercise our body. We allow ourselves our pores to sweat. You know, we do all what is necessary to maintain a really good, healthy physiology. Yeah, we do that. Okay, but far too many of our people do not, and I would not, therefore, commit them to a life of illnesses and ultimately death. And I want to just say this to you, though, and I think this is why I believe much of this is a right-wing propaganda campaign. And what they're doing is using the racist behavior of the past and reminding us of this. Yes, we did it to you. So don't trust any medicines. Yeah. They're reminding us and therefore creating fear in the minds of us, our African peoples, yeah? And they're heightening the fears, yeah? Heightening the fears. And as you know, when you heighten the fear, your immune response declines as well, yeah? So as you can continue to propagate the right-wing propaganda that we must not trust medicine suddenly, overnight, must not trust medicine, I then say to you, wow, on that basis, you're prepared to commit tens of thousands of our people to a life of clinical destitution. And I say to you, I am not. If they're not living the healthy lifestyle that you and I are experiencing, okay, they require aid in order to survive what is, you acknowledge, a toxic environment. Okay, and I want to just give you really a good example and why I believe the reluctancy continues, even though I believe that's changing. Okay, it's the what's his name, the Tanzanian Prime Minister, okay, who made it clear that. He's not going to recommend his people take the vaccines. And what he's actually saying to them is that, no, I'm not going to recommend you do this. You should pray to God. Yeah. You should sanitize your hands. Okay. But I'm not going to authorize taking vaccines. Okay. In other words, he's acknowledging a clear and present danger.
But hold on. I think you said he's not saying vaccines, he's saying this particular vaccine.
Do you know what? if I may say so with respect, the entire world is in lockdown. More than $40 trillion worth of trade has been lost. These are competitive economies would not lock themselves down if there was not a clear and present danger. Let's be clear about that. And what he's actually saying to his people,
can I respond to what you just said?
We don't care about you enough. We don't care about you.
No. Then what's the call?
I didn't interrupt you. I'm going to finish. I didn't interrupt you. I listened very carefully to you. But I have to make the point that this particular Prime Minister is exhibiting extreme irresponsibility. Okay? Extreme irresponsibility. He acknowledges the danger, but he's saying to people, sanitize your hands, pray to God, but I'm not going to authorize the vaccine. Okay? What he's saying, he's not been tested in his country, despite the fact more than 50 million people worldwide have received the vaccine. That's a pretty good test cohort, if I may say so. And my last sentence on this subject is this. I agree that we should have a healthy concern with the current situation. I agree. And I have, okay? But I profoundly disagree when educated people put fear in the mind of lay people, particularly those who fall in the vulnerable groups, particularly in the elderly, and force them, just like an animal who's been suddenly faced with a car headlamps. You know what they do? They seize up, they stop, they are uncertain, because that is an all-powerful message from someone they trust. Yeah. Okay, and I say to you, gosh, we've got to protect our own. And unless you are going to guarantee whatever your alternative is will protect the elderly and those with those conditions from this clear and present danger, honestly, you really should not, I say again, you really should not say what you said, because the way it will be interpreted by lay people will be that they shouldn't do nothing in the face of a clear and present danger. I think that's completely wrong, almost immoral, in fact. And I would expect of the Ku Klux Klan, I would expect of the British National Party, people like Nigel Farage, Donald Trump. That's what I would expect it of, but I would not expect it of my own people.
All right.
I would not.
All right, Devon.
Can I just respond to this?
Yeah, respond.
Okay, so I find it incredible that I'm accused of pushing fear. Now, we have a media that I make a point when I wrote to my MP to say, the media, they need to at least advise the media that if they're going to report on this and they're going to be journalists, they shouldn't just continue to cite how many people die and how many people being infected. They should at least tell people the full story about how many people recover from it. So if you're just pushing death, and if you're just pushing death, and nothing to do with taking care of the human body whatsoever, nothing about health is put on the media whatsoever. For the past year and a half, that's all the media does, to talk about death rate and infective rate. And then we say, well, that is an ideal situation to suppress the immune system. And here it is. I am suggesting that there is alternative view. For example, they could at least include something like, in the meantime, we're waiting on a vaccine, we should sort of detox. We should sort of clean the body inside, not just to wash the outside. Why not clean the inside? Is it that it is accepted part of the medical profession that detoxification is a real thing? It's not something that they call alternative medicine, but yet still that is not mentioned one time. And we're saying, does common sense suggest that maybe if you detox your body in the meantime, if you're vulnerable, that might be helpful? It might sort of mitigate against you dying. And I'm the one spreading fear. So that's the first thing. Now, the point is, in spite of the fact that most people don't take care of the body and we live the way we live, in spite of all of that, the body, we're ignoring the ex-elephant in the room. The body still have a higher success rate than the effective rate that they claim that the vaccine will have. The body has a 97% success rate because the death rate If anybody wish to go and look it up, and since you're the one who's in charge of your constituency, you need to go and look up at least the basic death rate and use that as a basis to come to scientific conclusion based on what they're telling us. They are saying to us, for example, in America, where they reckon they have some of the highest rates, 1.8% was the death rate last year. That means the body had a 98% survival. So what is the vaccine effective rate? 95% and 94%. That's simple maths. The body, without any medicine, in spite of how poorly we live, is still more effective than the vaccine. Yet still, we are so convinced that the vaccine, which is undoubtedly, without question, of side effects, it's undoubted that people have died from it, and yet still, I am being irresponsible by suggesting that that is something we need to think about. The fact that the body has a more higher success rate without any chance of side effect or death from the body taking action. And we are supposed to think that that is far, if we don't do something that's less effective than the body, we've been crazy. We must take something that has all of these side effects, even though it has a lesser success rate than the body, according to them. Because what they're saying is a suggestion. They haven't proven it yet. But we know for the past year that consistently 97% or more of people recover from coronavirus without any drugs or medicine. 97%. That's not me making it up. I don't make these figures. I go on the internet just like everybody, the greatest library ever built, and we're in the information age. Look up the figures. 97% of people survive without medicine. But they're saying that the vaccine is between 95 and 94% effective. So they're saying that other percentage is not going to do nothing for those other people, but the body is more effective. And nobody has answered the question about how do we explain babies not dying? Aren't we not curious about these things? Why are we so blind and thinking we should have this unshakable faith in something that have all these unanswered questions? Why are babies not dying? Why are children not dying from this deadly thing? What is the relevance of all of that? We just trust, and we don't have any thought of our own. We can't research and come to any conclusion. Doctors go and learn just like we do. They can read. We can read. I've read the books that they read. You don't have to go to doctor. You don't have to become a doctor to learn this stuff. I've read books written by doctors from a different point of view, right? There's a book called Confession of a Medical Heretic that everybody should read by Dr. Medicine, right? So anyway, that's what I'm saying about all of this, right? But the idea, brother, you don't want to be accusing people of being like Hitler and Donald Trump and all that sort of thing. Why is that necessary for this conversation? Why are we going there when I'm using simple? You want me to have, because I'm not a politician, but at the same time, if I was a politician, I would want my people to be informed. And you know what I would say to them? I will say to them that they need to detox their body, even if they decide they want to go and take vaccine. They should at least do some form of detox, right? And help their system. That's what I will say to them, right? And nobody's telling them that, including these so-called people that have their welfare at heart.
Okay. So I said, hold on. Anybody else want to come in?
I'd like to come on here.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. Okay.
I think it's very unfair when we use intellectual argument to badger people who were just saying, give us a chance to investigate alternative ways of helping the body. You know, people have got to understand that we are born and there is a moment when we will leave. And the journey in the middle is the choices that we make. The vaccine is not going to prolong the time that people have. They're not even telling you that it's going to prolong it. So I think using an intellectual argument and making people who are looking at alternatives it to be wrong is a very, very dangerous argument. That is an argument that says, do not look over here. Just keep your eyes focused. You're not even giving people the intelligence to be able to critically think about alternatives. They're so scared of hearing an alternative. They're so weak in their minds that they can't even think about something different from what is being given on the national lie box. That is a terrible thing to say, that we're not intelligent enough to have an opinion about alternative information, and we're going to run scared because we can't analyze critically information. That is just wrong. You should never speak to us like that. That is just out of order.
Okay.
Okay, I'll just come in there as well. Now, maybe just, I would say that, are you hearing me?
Yes. Yeah, loud and clear.
Okay. When you are a part of the official government system, they have a line, which to remain a part of it, you have to have that line as well. I also understand the part about, you know, there are people sick, because, you know, when you see it and when you're interacting with them, you know, you have to take that seriously and what's happening with people. But we, as a people, and as the sister said, we're intelligent enough to know what we've been through, what our mothers have been through, what our fathers have been through, and what our forefathers have been through, and what we're still having to battle every day. Even now, we're still battling that. So that is very real. We don't need the British National Party or the KKK to put anything up to tell us about our reality. We know that. So let's just get that out. And I think really you should apologize as well to the brother for that. We are able to think and feel for ourselves. That is why Black people of African Caribbean descent do not want to take the vaccine, because we have felt the hands of these people time and time and time again, like a whip on the back. We took out flesh every time it struck us. So understand as well that you live that life and so forth. And yes, I think giving a balanced view is important. Why not say to them, I'm also going to say to those MPs who came together and said to the African Caribbean community, who are clearly saying we don't want this. So they have said to us, against something that we don't want, they came together and gave us a message. You have now set a precedent and shown us that you can sing from the same hymn. We want to see from now on that you will sing from the same hymn book on issues that we feel are affecting us, because you are there to represent us. Fair enough, this time it's done. This time you've done it on behalf of the government, and people don't want it. That's their choice, whether you choose to or not. I'm not even saying, that's not my position to tell you what to do. But as someone who represents our community, which is why you spoke to us about taking the vaccine, you have set a precedent, and we are expecting you now to stand as you have done now together to represent issues of our children dying on the streets, of our children not getting the education that we need, of people who, as somebody mentioned it, sickle cell. For years and years and years and years, people in that community have been asking for some kind of research done to help them, and time after time the door is on them. These issues that affect our community, we expect you now, from now on, to stand together as you did just now and talk on the issues that affect us. Whoever chooses to take the vaccine is their choice. God gave people that choice, or people have that right, however you want to put it. So that is their choice. But again, I'm going to agree with our brother. The information that is put out must be balanced. You must also speak of the 90-odd% of the population globally that is recovering from the innate immune system that was given to humankind. Put it in perspective. That's all I would say.
I'd just like to add one bit down by the talk, and it's this. Our president in Tanzania has taken a responsible position, and that position is that there are alternatives to the vaccine, and that is natural medicine. And that is what he recommends for the people of Tanzania. That is what successfully helped the people in Madagascar, and that is helping the people in Tanzania. So we shouldn't jump up because he mentioned the word God. That's all he was doing. No. He take a responsible position is that these are my people, and I've got to look after their interests, and I'm not listening to the state of Europe. Europe does not run Tanzania. I am the president of Tanzania. That same president tear up an agreement that the previous administration had made with China because it was totally one-sided. That is a responsible president we want, because all the others sign up hook, line, and sinker, and the people are dying from this so-called treatment.
If I may come back to a few of those responses very quickly. Thank you. First of all, I'm going to keep repeating it. This sounds to me like a right-wing plot. The only people that we're satisfying are the KKK, Donald Trump, Nigel Farage, people like that who do not and will not support the interest of African peoples, either in Africa, Europe, or indeed the Americans. That's what I hear. And why do I hear that?
That's what you hear.
I listen to you.
All right, let's let him, Devon, let's let him talk.
I didn't interrupt.
No, let him talk. Carry on, Martin, carry on.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Allow him to finish. Let's allow him to finish. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I want to go back to Tanzania, and I want to address the other point very quickly. And why do I call the Tanzanian Prime Minister an irresponsible fool? Okay, because he knows the danger for that country, so he stopped reporting the number of coronavirus cases. The last time it was reported was in April last year, and that country reported 509 cases in April last year. Now, that country hasn't taken steps to prevent the spread of the virus in that country. So the fact that it's not been reported doesn't mean the virus is not in Tanzania. He offered, some of his health people offered natural remedies, but didn't offer any indication of what they were and how effective they might be for the population. I say again, because I'm an elected official, that is highly irresponsible. Yep, highly irresponsible. Okay, they're not my family, but I feel as if they are my family. I'm going to now address the other point. Really, I've got to address them really head on now. I agree with you. My tradition is natural remedies. And yes, I agree. The government should be discussing natural ways of upholding your health. Absolutely. But that's not been the convention for British governments. You know, it is communities that develop their ways of managing health within those communities. It's communities that do this. In fact, you could argue, and I'm going to be very careful what I say here. You could argue that unless my comrades, my brothers and sisters who are present here, are engaged, I know in fact my sister Theresa, my 7 years, engage in organizing our people around health issues, okay, and affecting their lifestyle in order to boost both for good health and longevity. Yeah, unless you're doing that as a practical step forward, I say to you, well, please listen to my radio show on Saturday morning on Galaxy Radio. You'll know that my last show we devoted 4 hours to African medicine practitioners. We devoted 4 hours to promoting African herbalists last Saturday. More importantly, we also committed ourselves to organize an international conference of African herbalists and medical practitioners to establish new standards, to establish those standards that will be internationally recognized, so that, yes, our medicines can be recognized alongside these big multinational pharmaceutical companies. Absolutely. But we're not there yet. So until we get there, those who are vulnerable in our community, I'm a father. So I've got a natural instinct to protect by whatever means necessary, as the great man would have said. By whatever necessary means, at least on this occasion, at least until we have alternatives which are viable, we've tested, and we can distribute ourselves, I cannot see an alternative for the vulnerable in our community to take but the virus. It doesn't care about your race. It doesn't actually care about your economic class. It doesn't actually care where you are in the world. Yeah, it's an unusual virus. It most probably is a result of some man intervention. Most probably it is. It's very unusual for a virus to exist in both hot and cold climates simultaneously. So there is some human intervention, in my view. I could be wrong, but that all the evidence suggests I may well be right. Therefore, if there is a means by which people can avoid the worst effects of the virus, we should take whatever steps is necessary to ensure that those effects benefit our community as well. It will be a travesty, I say again, an absolute travesty for other communities, to be protected, at least for the most part, from this virus, and our community fails to respond. In fact, I've got nothing to worry about. I'm convinced, absolutely convinced, that those figures of the slow uptake in our community will change, because the numbers of people who have either had the virus, who are suffering from long COVID, or indeed who have demise, are increasing the networks of people for whom there is direct experience of the likely effect, the detrimental effect this virus might have on the human physiology. And for that reason, I'm absolutely convinced that our people's innate desire to survive would mean that the uptake of the vaccine would increase anyway, no matter what we say here. Because honestly, people tend to vote with their feet. And in this matter, I'm convinced they will most certainly seek to defend their own health and well-being. Other commentators who suggest that there's reason to be suspicious, I am a naturally suspicious person, but the evidence is overwhelming that the British economy cannot function whilst people overwhelming the National Health Service are not able to go to work, are not able to earn a living, are not able to be upright citizens because of this virus. It is unacceptable to the British economy, it's unacceptable to the European economy, it's unacceptable to the Russian economy, unacceptable to the Chinese economy, unacceptable to the American economy, and absolutely unacceptable to any African economy to be in that state of affairs. So we've got to respond with force and determination. Praise God.
Can I answer? The brother mentioned my name at some moment. Can I answer what he's just said?
Yeah.
Can I do it now?
Fine. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, come through.
No, brother, I'm exhausted listening to you, and I don't mean to be rude. You are talking about the economy, and at the same time, you're expecting me to give severity to your concern about death and well-being, but you keep talking about the economy. Now, I have spent all of my life helping people to understand what their body is made for. I'm not Johnny come lately. I listened to your show yesterday. I've created projects, hundreds of them over my lifetime. I'm now in my 60s. I know what community engagement is about. And I also spent most of my time educating myself. So when I open my mouth, I am speaking from a position of understanding. I speak from a position of a person who has lived on the planet, who has engaged with people on all levels. I myself had this whatever it's calling last year and recovered from it. I have seen sickness. My mother died when I was young. I was sick when I was pregnant. So do not talk to me about no caring, and do not mix up medical and financial things. You either care about the financial things, talk about that. If you care about the people, talk about that. Don't confuse the argument about why is the lockdown. The financial people of this world chose to lock down the country. They didn't give a damn about people's health and well-being. They chose to do that. There are many other things they could have done. They had the power to do it and they did it. They now have the power to put something inside of our bodies, which they have said themselves does not know, apart from 2 months, what is going to happen. So do not give us this passionate conversation that you're giving us when you yourself don't know. You have not been given divine information about this vaccine. So don't talk as if you're a religious preacher telling us what this vaccine can do, because you don't know, because they don't know. And they shut down the economy because they chose to, because it suits their purpose. Don't mix up the two things. And I was on your show yesterday, and there are many people who know about alternatives, and we don't get a platform to spend hours and hours talking. That's why people don't hear about us. Champion that. In this moment, you're championing it, but champion it forever, for the rest of your life. Don't champion it because it's fashionable now. You may have done the education. Yes, great. So are other people. We may not have a platform. We may not have a voice, but we were working in the community, educating people and telling people about our wisdom. We haven't just turned up all of a sudden. It takes work to change people's minds, because there are other people changing their minds in the opposite direction. And I would ask you to give respect to our elders and our tradition. And don't keep mixing up economy with medicine and natural health, holistic health. There are two different models, and they don't equate to the same thing. I'm sorry I've raised my voice, but you really annoyed me because of the way you're talking. We have a right to know all the information and choose for ourselves. It's our human right, and we should be given that. I heard them talking about sexuality, transhumanism, and they bring everybody to give all different opinions, but this one subject is only one opinion. Why don't you talk about that and stop trying to mitigate your conversation in this conversation? It's really irritating.
I think the brother has no interest in because he repeat his insult twice in it. After all of that, he repeats his insult again, calling me KKK. He has no intention of changing. It's like a tape recorder.
You have to let people be who they are. That's
like
right.
a tape
Can I just say a quick word before you come in, brother? May I just finish? Can I just come in?
Yeah.
So I just want to say, okay. So it was quite good actually. You closed and you said Jah Rastafari, and I just like to start there, because the Rastafari people are one who have not only educated our people about holistic living, eating ital food for 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 odd years in our community, even their own families turn their backs against them. So yes, let's say Jah Rastafari, that you can now come and even say that those people. So when you talk about have we in the community for 30 and 40 years, but outside of that, we've had a whole wave that have educated. So we've had a whole movement that has educated the community and the world. I heard George Bush's wife say that she's Rasta. Rasta has educated the world on holistic living, holistic feeding. So my brother, I'm glad you've kind of just come in and you was on the radio station yesterday. I myself was on Conscious Radio over 10 years ago talking about those things. We have people like Stephen Sarley and Mark Walcott and years upon years upon years. So the fact that you was on the radio yesterday on Galaxy, that's good for you. I'm happy you were on there. What I would also say is, I've also gone into schools, carried out campaign where people should feed themselves. So get children, hundreds upon hundreds, thousands of children over the years now. That's by one person. There's many others who have food growing campaigns in the community. In fact, if you were listening to Galaxy over the years, you would know that there are many people on that station who talk about growing your own food, who talk about natural eating, in all the other stations that are on a community that speak out. So, and this is no disrespect, but just it feel like, them said Johnny come lately, that you actually want to say that you were on Galaxy. That's just yesterday. This has been going on for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 years. You have learned on the back of others. And we all on the back of, but you speak as if you are an authority. You're not an authority on me personally. And now do you obviously speak on behalf of the culture, because you bring with you the European and the part of the European that you are shouting out on this platform. The fact that you want to do that, I ask why? Why would you not, even if you hold certain thoughts, why are you not communing with your brothers and sisters? Because guess what? Just that I see here, we all are going to have a different opinion. And as a cultured human being, we understand that. And we do not have to put down our brothers and sisters' opinion. The same who you call it, the Rasta man, we have to reason as a people, because we're not all going to see the same thing. 7 brothers, 7 different minds. But the fact that you choose to bring the name of those who were the ones that inflicted the worst on our people, and you choose to do it a second time, I'm not even going to call their names. We are here to reason on behalf of those of us who have chosen not to take the vaccine. And just to say, the highest European court has agreed that vaccinations are not mandatory. It is not mandatory. It doesn't meet the criteria to be mandatory. So that has been given at the highest level. Yes,
So here it is, right? We have 95% effective.
Brother Devon, did you want to say something?
Pardon me? Yes, I'm saying
that. Yeah, it's coming through.
We are arguing about the fact that the brother is pushing that we should. Is very, very passionate about the fact that we should accept something that is claimed to be 95% effective and 94% effective. Over and saying that you're a radical KKK if you suggest that the body is 97% effective, which is a scientific fact stated by the very people who are giving us all the information we have. I didn't say that, but I'm the one who is a KKK. I'm repeating what they say, and I'm on a KKK. And that's it. So we want to insult. That's extreme stupidity. I am saying, I'm repeating their figure. They say 97% of us, the human body, recover. And they're saying the vaccine is less effective than the human body. But I'm a KKK for stating that. And that makes sense. We are listening to a tape recorder. You, brother, you came here to just repeat something to do with the fact that you're a politician. And somehow you're obliged to say that because you think somehow it's politically expedient for you to say that. And you expect us to take you seriously, and you're not paying attention to nothing I just said. Here it is now, I give you maths. Simple, a child could work out those figures. 97% of the people survive without medicine, but you want us to say desperately we must take something that have a less effectiveness than the human body. How does that make any sense? What's that got to do with being radical? That is a genuine question that any person who have any pretense of being an intellectual would want to explore. And I come from a people that built the pyramid, and they were extremely intelligent people, right? And unfortunately, all that we're working with now is emotions. Because you don't hear me coming here talking about how I feel and how I feel. I'm talking about just looking at what they present to us and using that thing inside of the cranium called a brain, just to dissect what they're telling us. And I'm saying if the body is more effective than the vaccine, why is the vaccine so critical? It's a simple question. And you, if you want to have a conversation, why not engage with that point and give me what you think about that simple maths? Deal with the figures that they present, not me. I didn't present those figures. So deal with that if you're genuine about this conversation. Otherwise, you come here to spread I'm a political propaganda. You come here to do something that only you alone can explain. But if you're not going to deal with, just deal with the figures. Deal with the maths. A doctor says that doctors are not taught about how vaccines are made and what they put in it. A doctor said that. I am going to go along with her because nobody has come and contradict that. Furthermore, first start, only 5% of doctors actually study nutrition. Maybe that, since you're so busy trying to help your constituent, maybe you should know stuff like that. Only 5% of doctors study nutrition because it's an optional subject. It's not compulsory. That means when you go to your doctor, he doesn't know anything about wellness and health. He knows about drugs. That's what he's trained in. That's not the same thing, because you might have observed, since you're so intelligent, that you only get life and energy from food, from things that nature produced. You don't get that from medicine, from drugs. So the same person, when doctors graduate, they have the option to take what they call the Hippocratic Oath. From a man they call Hippocrates. They claim that he is the one that's supposed to father Western medicine. What is his mantra? His mantra is, let your food be a medicine and your medicine be your food. Then you explain to me, how is it that in 200 years ago, suddenly the medicine that this man founded has nothing to do with food? And somebody pointed out a simple obvious. Anthony Robbins pointed out him. So when there's lots of money involved, are we not adults and wise in the world to know that this is true? That when there's a lot of money involved, people lie? Is it that far-fetched that people lie about something like this? Is it that far-fetched? Is it possible that the fact that the earth is a medicine that is supposed to be founded by a man that claimed that your food should be a medicine, and it has nothing to do with food anymore, right? And we know that medicine cannot cure you. Sorry, medicine cannot, they don't pretend that they're curing people. They say they treat the symptoms. So they have no cure for cancer, no cure for diabetes, no cure for arthritis, but we still think that that is the only point of view that's worth considering. In spite of them having a track record of getting rid of the most major disease. Let me tell you one last point I'm going to make here, right? The WHO has on its website, and because I know 99% of us will never even think of visiting the WHO website, they have on their website that one of the factors that cause cancer is alcohol consumption, and it contributes to 400,000 deaths per year. But you never hear that discussion in the public domain, right? It's not going to, you don't see it on any inscription and any bottles that you might buy with alcohol in it. But 400,000 people die a year based on cancer that's caused by alcohol consumption. The WHO is one of the richest organizations in the world. Why are they not making documentary about these things? Why are they not informing the public about these dangers? The only thing that we have come now to is the fact that, cigarette, we start acting on the cigarette thing after years and years of denying it. Suddenly they start acting on that now, and it's on packages now, and the dangers there, etc., etc. And people don't have a choice to make. So if you still want to smoke, carry on, right? You've been warned. But this, so far, nothing about this alcohol thing. But that's supposed to be a non-profit organization. Why are they not They are supposed to be looking after public good. Why are they not informing the public about those things, right? So those of us who think we really understand this system, right? Because we're in the system. We don't really understand the system because we're not researching the system. We listen and we regurgitate. That's it. And that's not good enough if we're really serious about this matter.
Okay.
If I can.
Okay, so wait a minute. Just before you come in, I'll just take the time. So 5 more minutes because we have gone well over the time that we normally do. So this would be like a summing up. So I'll go to each person in turn, and you can make your last point. Yeah. Yes, I'll come through.
Yep,
the motivator.
Thank you. And I think this has been an interesting debate. I didn't expect to change mine, but it's important to sort of lay down the markers. Okay, where I hear narratives from. So I hear narratives from right-wing websites. You know, they're really pleased that African peoples are nervous about this particular vaccine, when in fact the vaccine has been taken up by other communities in significant numbers. More than white people in this country are twice or more likely to take the vaccine and be protected, at least some measure of protection against the virus, than we are at this juncture. I consider that to be a public health issue. And if you are one of my constituents, I absolutely will be sitting down with you and discussing how to protect you from what is a clear and present danger. I will not place the vulnerable in harm's way. I will not do it. I refuse to do it. I say to my sister Kandake, yes, praise Jah Rastafari. I would encourage them to live a healthy life. And I most certainly will be very, very, very determined that they change the way in which they're living their current life. Be no doubt about that. So I say to Devon, and I think it's really important, and I listen to you very carefully. You are, of course, right that if 97% of those who get the virus, they are either asymptomatic or simply survive the symptoms. Yeah, agreed. What we've got to consider is the impact it has on the health services. Why is the National Health Service concerned with COVID patients? Okay, I'm in South London. We've got 2 major hospitals, so King's and Guy's St Thomas. 2/3 of their wards contain COVID-19 patients. They're concerned, and they have been at it now for nearly a year, that numbers of patients coming into hospitals are so vast that those with other conditions are not now receiving the treatment program that they're entitled to. In other words, just because it's 3% of 1 million, I'll leave you to work that figure. 3% of 20 million, I'll leave you to work that figure out as well. But I can assure you those are numbers which far exceed the capacity of the National Health Service to provide a good service to citizens. So I say to people, I'm hyper cautious. I'd love you all to live our lifestyle, yeah? True ITIL lifestyle. I'd love you to do that, but that's my family heritage, okay? My grandfather was the Rastaman, so it is my family heritage. But I recognize that it's not the case, unfortunately, yeah? We collectively have to work even harder to convince our people to live healthily. So we reduce the instances of obesity in the community, hypertension, diabetes, respiratory conditions, COPD conditions, and so on. Yeah, we want to lengthen the lifespan of our people in this country. If you go to Tanzania, the average lifespan of a Tanzanian is 52 years. I repeat, 52 years. Here we talk about 60, 70 years old. Yeah, that's the difference, and that is the measure of the task before us. So I say to you all, look, we're all on the same side. Actually, we're all on the same side. We all want the very best for our people. I simply say I will not place the vulnerable in harm's way, and unless I've got a certain alternative method to prevent the potential harmful onset of COVID-19 on a member of our community, I will not place them in harm's way. Okay. Therefore, as the great man said, and I said earlier on, by any means necessary, I will protect those who are vulnerable in the community. And I say again, Praise Yah. Right, that's right.
Okay, so I'm going to go around now for in the last comments. So I'll go around.
Thank
Sister
you.
Theresa.
Can I wanted.
All right, Sister Kandake, right, go on. Yeah, Kandake.
Okay. So just for clarity from here, so we're all clear from here, and then before I just say, so Demotivator, I just want to be absolutely clear that the only persons that you are recommending should take the vaccine is that 0.1% of persons who need the vaccine, who have the comorbidities. I just want to be absolutely clear that those are the persons that you are specifically saying you want to protect, those ones. Is that what we're saying?
Well done. I said the elderly infirm, and those who have those comorbidities absolutely should take the virus. But don't take my word for it. Speak to your GP. Others most certainly should speak to their
Great.
GP as to whether or not it's an appropriate treatment for it.
That's fine. I just wanted to be clear so that those who are hearing as well are understanding that you're not necessarily saying the other 95% that they should take the vaccine, just those who have the comorbidities or who may be vulnerable to it, right?
Elderly, yes.
Okay. So now we're clear on that. So just to say there are brothers and sisters out there. So for those of us who are quite, or those of you who are quite able and don't need to, that Brother Demotivator is saying that it is not the 90% who quite, rightly get, recover if they even get the virus. Okay. I'm still not quite clear why the KKK bit came in if you're just talking about 3%, but I don't want to know. It's all right. Okay, that's fine. So that's cleared up. Right. So from here, what I would like to say is that what concerns me when you have an industry like the pharmaceutical industry that is profit driven is that when you have the CEO of Microsoft and the large shareholders in pharmaceutical companies saying, for my 4 million investment, I'll get a 1.2 billion return. When I hear someone talking figures like that, and then I see this rolling out, that this is how you will get that kind of return. So he said it, that I'll invest 4 million and my vaccines will give me this kind of, so that is happening. Those kind of returns are happening. And my question is, are these return at the expense of the human being? And again, when I look, so this is why are Black people not wanting to take the COVID. When you see the pattern and the historical, the history of these companies and how they have acted unethically, and I want to separate the companies from our healthcare workers. They are two different things. So I'm not talking about the doctors, and I'm not talking about the nurses who are doing sterling work in those hospitals, trying to deal with something that maybe they haven't had to face before. We support those who are out there doing that kind of work. There's a different look on, like I say, the industries that say that they are out to make profit and then say they're going to vaccinate the world, where you have like on the ranking of like African countries, it's like 0. how much % on the world ranking, yet you want to vaccinate the whole population. Again, my question is, well, it's actually an observation. They've said that if you take the vaccine, so these people are in hospital, they've got COVID. But if they should take the vaccine, it does not stop them getting the virus or passing the virus on. It doesn't kill the virus. Why are we taking this vaccine again? Why does the whole planet need to take it again? It doesn't add up. Okay. And the last thing that I want to say is, again, you mentioned economy, and why would you want to close down the economy? Well, we know that the people that run things do not think about a year in advance, 2 years. They think 10, 15, 20, 50 years down the road. And we can see the economy shifting into an age of AI. Cryptocurrency, those kind of online currency is the new world order, is what they're bringing in. And they've said it time and time again. Okay, so we are having a paradigm shift in terms of economies. So the economies so-called closing down, the ones that we see here and now, we know that the big techs are coming in. That's why when we talk about bioengineering, that's the new field that's coming in, this whole bioengineering field of technology. That's where the big money is. Follow the money. That's what runs the planet. And the thing is, our people can see that. And it's not just our people, other people are seeing, I mean, millions, if not billions of people are seeing that. So Elder Pepukayi said it earlier. This isn't just about the COVID vaccine. It's about what they themselves have said, this new reset, this new world order. So for the COVID vaccine, you know, the African Caribbean have said, thanks, but no thanks. We don't want it. That's it.
Okay, so I'll keep going around. Sister Theresa, you got any, just summing up?
Okay, thank you, brother. Okay, I'm glad you changed the tone of your response on this conversation, brother. That has given me pause to realize that our conversation with you has made an impact in your mind. I would like to share with everyone that in this world, because we have so many different opinions, the right to have an opinion is got to be preserved. We're on every front, the right for fresh air, the right to own land or to live on land, it's all been changed because of the, I call the profit principle, the commercialization of the world. It's changed the land, it's changed the air, it's changed where we live. Every time a new industry is birthed, they have a reset. A new industry is going to be birthed now. They've told us this. They've been talking about the fourth industrial revolution. This is a fourth one. And a part of that is biotechnology, nanotechnology. And we have to understand that they know what they're bringing in because they're bringing it in. They're using words like reset. What are they going to reset? They're going to reset their financial system. They're going to reset their political system. And they want to reset us. And I'm not scaremongering anyone, but it's time for us to understand what geopolitics actually means. What does colonialism mean? What does empire mean? What does land grab mean? All of these things are all in this thing called tangled hierarchy. We're mixed up in it. You're talking about our rights and we shouldn't be left out. Why would we join a group of people who were bent on destroying and touching and tossing and mixing up this world? Why are we going to give our energy to join them? They don't know order. They don't know peace. They don't know to follow the biosystems, the habitat of the nature of this planet. They respect her of nothing and no one. And I'm not telling people not to take it. It's your choice. You have been given life. You make your choice. but I would like you to get the information to be able to make a choice and not be used as a tool in a game of geopolitics and profit principle for people to build their empires for generation to come into the future to dominate the rest of the world. I don't want to be a part of that. And my voice is about getting yourself to understand who you are, and what you've been given. And then look around and see where you want to be, who you want to join, and do it that way. I don't persuade people not to take the vaccine or take it. That's not what I'm here for. I'm here as an educator to share what I understand and to help people to have their understanding that they can own. And I think we should have a right to say that without it becoming political. I'm not interested in politics. I don't care about it. So please do not ever, when it's talking to me in public or on the screen, use nonsense words that are political. They have no bearing on my perception. And I would just like to say to people that I've created a project called take3chefs.com to educate people about food and how food can help their well-being, the physical, mental, and spiritual. That's what I've been doing in this COVID time, in this pandemic. I've been spending my time building teams of people who are knowledgeable, who can help with these challenging times that we're having. Because without education and without knowledge, we have no choice. And if they're going to lock down places and not let us see the facts, we are not going to be able to make a good, valuable judgment about what it is that's happening to us. When the reset happens, everybody be like, oh, I wish I had understood. Now is the time to understand. This is the moment that we need to get educated. And all I'm contributing to is the mix of education and information that we should be able to hear. That's my comment. And thank you all for having me on the platform.
Okay.
Thank you all for listening.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sister Theresa. Now, Brother Devon, just summing up.
Yes, we have a commercial enterprise that driving this narrative, that's driving and controlling and making the critical decisions about economy, all the things we've touched on. They decide that the world, they are the ones who drive the information to drive the media, who then spread the fear, and then know that infect the people. And then because the people have the fear, and initially the government didn't want to lock down. Boris Johnson said, no, I'm not locking down. But the fear is driven by the media, and eventually he got sick, and then he decided that he is going to shut down. So the commercial is driving the thing, and then now they create a domino effect where people have locked down the world, right? And then the other consequences, like the increase in suicide rate, the increase in what they call to do with depression, and they say it adversely affect children. Depression rate, clinical depression, as adversely affect mostly children. So there's all of these so-called collateral damages that result from lockdown that is very rarely talked about, because somehow that is not important, because we believe that this danger, the whole virus thing, is so much more powerful, even though the figures are not as frightening as how the media make it, because they never mention the 97%, right? That the fact that the percentage sometimes in America is less than 2%. And most of those people have other issues, right? We've seen the evidence that they're labeling heart attack as COVID and all that sort of thing, right? So we allow them, this commercial enterprise, to drive the current situation. And the media is the main architect behind this, because they just deal with ratings for people to watch their thing. They have no sense to say, well, maybe I shouldn't be pushing this fear factor. What effect does it have on people that sit in their house all day watching the news? How does it affect their immune system? When you lock into your house all day, you're going to do a few things that is not even good for you. You're going to eat more junk. You're going to drink more alcohol if you're locked into your house. That is one of the explanations for you can predict that there will be a spike, because people are going to eat more junk and drink more alcohol. which are factors, once we understand how those things work on the human body and how it interact with any sort of, because if your immune system is lowered, that means you can't defend yourself from the average germ that the body can swat away quite easily, right? And that applies to people who are not even having any sort of illness, right? If your immune system is that lowered because you're afraid. So nobody's thinking about these contexts in terms of saying, well, at least the government should say to the media, balance the picture in terms of the way you report the news. Talk about the fact that it's not as, there is this massive majority of people who survive this thing without medicine, right? And here it is now, in spite of the fact that we know that this thing is driven by a commercial enterprise. And we see the question here, why are babies not dying from this deadly thing? Why are children not dying from this deadly? Isn't that a pause for us to be able to think that there's something we don't know about this thing? Isn't that a pause to say that it's been misrepresented in terms of how it works? Because I've said to people, the explanation why babies are not dying is because the main cause of the death is not the virus on its own. It has to have a partner. And the partner is the pre-existing condition. That is the constant that you see why people, the majority of people, the facts bore that out. The majority of the people who are dying have other conditions. So we're saying the virus with that condition is the common factor the people who die in the majority. The masses of babies that are in the millions and children don't die. And what is missing from those? Not to do the immune system, because they don't have a strong immune system. The thing that's missing is that they do not have illness, and therefore they do not have a lot of toxins in their system. They haven't been around long enough to accumulate a lot of waste and toxic things in their body. That's the logical explanation why they wouldn't die if something deadly is going wrong. Otherwise, it makes no sense otherwise, because as I said, they don't have a strong immune system, right? And they are not the ones who are dying. The vast majority of people who are dying have a problem, right? But we still don't want to consider that, even though there's a commercial drive behind all of this. And they're not interested in just humanizing the vulnerable. They say all of us must get the vaccine. In spite of we having no symptoms or no illness, whatever, they want us to have this vaccine, even though it's less effective than the human body. And that is something that we're not willing to consider because we are being infected by fear or other consideration. That's my final point on this thing.
Okay, thank you very much, Deacon. And finally, I'd like to turn to Elder Pepukayi just for his summing up. Hold on your mic. Yeah, you have to unmute your mic.
Yes, I've done that, Taharkah. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
First, let me say that as the convener for these broadcasts, Taharkah, that you continue to do your best to get the female energy in this conversation. And we've been doing well so far because my sister Kandake, we've had her a number of times, and my beautiful sister, Sister Theresa, who had the opportunity and the privilege to listen to on a previous broadcast, has bring so much wealth of knowledge to this broadcast. And I remember she saying something that I've never heard from any other source before, is what happened in the birth canal of us coming into the world. And the question we have to ask ourselves, why is it that Europeans want always to move away from the natural order into something artificial? And I ask myself the question, have they left the human family? And we must ask ourselves the question, what is the effect of the Neanderthal connection to Europeans, Eurasian? Because I've been looking at how Europeans look at Neanderthals, and they try to big them up as if they're some very intelligent human being. And we need to spend some attention there. I say all of that to say that when I started, people felt that I was going off the track and I was not fixing on the discussion. And what I'm trying to say, I'm glad other of the presenters have touched on it, is that this vaccine, deadly and dangerous as it is one tiny factor in the whole scheme of things, because we lose the plot if we just focus on the vaccine and we're not looking at transhumanism, we're not looking at the New World Order, we're not looking at the point the sister mentioned earlier about this fourth industrial revolution. One thing must give white people credit for: they don't just talk empty talk. They put talk into action. And they're very particular and very deliberate in what they do. And we Africans must stop behaving like children, waiting to be told what to do, and use our own mind to navigate ourselves on this planet. It was Martin Luther who said, and I hope I got it right, that we're trying to integrate into a house that is burning down. Brother Devon mentioned that he's from a race that has produced the pyramids, the buildings we call the pyramids today, the only of the 7 wonders that have survived. And the best engineer, the best scientist, whether it's Japanese or European, cannot tell you how they were built and why they were built, what purpose. We Africans must rediscover our ability and begin to take control of our lives as a people and not dependent upon others. And I will conclude on this matter, because a lot of what Brother Martin have said, I totally disagree with him. But one thing he said, and we haven't picked up on it, and he said that this vaccine may have had some human intervention. And I 100% agree with him. I don't believe that this virus suddenly jumped out of some bat in a wet market in warm China and land on our people. I don't believe that nonsense. I believe we look at a biological weapon that has been weaponized to do a job, and we need to focus on how to deal with it. And our brother in Tanzania is very, very, very responsible as a leader, because some of the stupid, wishy-washy, licky-licky leaders we have. White man can come, jump off a plane, set up a tent and start to give out all kind of medicine and drugs and so on. None of us could come into Britain or come into any part of Europe and do such thing. Never, could never happen. But they could do that to us because we allow it. And what the president of Tanzania have done and said, I am the president of Tanzania, I'm responsible for the well-being of our people, and therefore we must take natural remedy, eat good food, and don't focus on the bad bit that he talks about. Focus on the full thing that he said, because the population of Tanzania and South Africa is almost the same, 50-odd million. In Tanzania, the COVID virus have only affected a small percentage of our people. No lockdown, no distancing. In South Africa, they're following lockstep in what Europe tells them to do. And that place is overwhelmed. In fact, they even talk about a second wave. And don't be surprised, the germ warfare production capacity of South Africa is vast. Helped by Israel, helped by America, helped by Europe to kill our people. They're still here. So don't be surprised when a second wave comes from there. The point I'm making, African, take responsibility for our own lives. Be our own master of our own destiny. And keep away from people who continuously want to murder us to take our wealth. We're not children. Be adults. Take responsibility.
Okay.
Taharkah,
All right. Santi Sane held the Pepukayi.
Brother Taharkah, yeah?
Huh?
Can I just say something to you?
Right. Briefly. Because,
There's something I forget.
uh-huh.
If it wasn't for the fear, a lot of people in the north, every year, average of 18,000 people die from the flu in this country. If it wasn't for the fear, a lot of people would not go to the hospital. You just lie in your bed like most people do and just ride the flu out. The fear will drive people to the hospital. So the very problem that they complain about why we need to have the vaccine, the fear caused that problem in terms of the NHS. It's not anything else. That's the fear that drives people to go to the hospital. If people were being told that they're going to die, this thing is deadly and then you could die in a minute, people would do what normal people for years. The idea you go to the hospital because you have the flu is not a thing that everybody.
No evidence to say such a thing. You've got no evidence whatsoever to say that. Yeah? You only go to hospital because you're critical.
People stay in bed and ride out of flu. That's what normally works.
Sorry, Chairman. But
that's what the flu
no evidence
to ride it out at home.
No evidence.
So now you're going to drive them to the hospital.
To be continued. To be continued.
To be continued. I mean, okay, I'd like to thank everybody for coming today and making this such an interesting discussion. And obviously we can see that we could have gone on another 3-4 hours because there's so much to say about this. But this is something that's constantly developing. Every day new information is coming out. What was recommended 2 weeks ago is being revised. So I have no doubt, because we can see that even the vaccines themselves, certain countries in Europe now are putting certain criteria on certain things, like over a certain age, they will not roll out this AstraZeneca because they said it hasn't been tested that much. So we can see a lot of what's going on is guesswork. They do, they've just come up with something so quickly, especially this Pfizer and Moderna is unproven technology, and it's just pure experimentation. And one of the things that we've got to remember is that if anything does go wrong when you take that vaccine, the ability to sue or take legal action has been waived, has been taken away. That's one of the first things the farmers wanted when they started to roll this out, is that they cannot be sued. And the government went along with that. So that's the situation right now. So as you can see from this discussion, I hope the information that's being put out there would better help people to make up their mind in whatever they want to do. Because we are not here to tell you to take it or not to take it. We're just here to give out information and for you to use your own intelligence to decide what to do. So, as was said in some of the comments, why didn't we have a medical doctor here? Now, this is something that we thought about, and we thought about even doing a follow-up and a part 2 when we will be endeavoring to invite several medical practitioners to hear it from their point of view. And, so that's something that we are working on. But in the meanwhile, I think the information that came across today is, is very, very, I hope people that's listening gained a lot from it, because I certainly did. And that's the thing I am surprised about from a government that calls itself democratic. Why is it shutting down the debate on the other side? We're supposed to live in a democracy. And if, as information comes out, the government will put out, or the farmers will put out their information, the medical fraternity, and there's always going to be people that counter that. Let's hear their views as well. But no, there's an active move now to seek out and pull down all information that dares to challenge the things that's been put in about. Now, we are streaming this over YouTube and Facebook. I won't be surprised if this video get pulled down. there's a great possibility it might be, because it's going contrary to what, apart from the motivator, that may be the saving grace to keep the view, because your views. But I think it's only fair that people hear the two sides of the story. It's really only fair that happened, because eminent people in the medical professions and the scientific world have come out and been put in an alternative view, but they haven't been given a platform. They haven't been given a time of day. And even when they release things on certain platform, it's been actively seeked out and pulled down. So that's something that we have got to think about. So again, I'd like to thank all the guests, Sister Theresa, the Motivator, Brother Devon, Sister Kandake, and of course, Elder Pepukayi. I'd like to thank everybody for being here. And as we do, we close how we started. So I'd like to turn now to Ndugu Ramani to close this session for us.
Asante sana, Ndugu. And I think everything you said, I wouldn't have anything more to add to it. And so we just should end in the way that we began, in fraternal love and union, in our tradition, our African tradition. And so that we are connecting with each other, and we're taking this into our intentions and manifest the reality that we wish. And it is our will that does that. Our divine will that comes from the all that we all emanate from. So I will now share my screen.
Okay.
There we go. Asante Sandiga. Everyone can see that?
Yes.
Okay. Wonderful.
Nice and clear.
So, as we are the one vibration, good. Everyone can see. As we are the one vibration, and so I'm going to ring the triangle chime 7 times. 7 because that's a very powerful spiritual quantity that denotes wisdom, seeking, and truth and intuition, which is what the whole aim of the emoji sessions are, and particularly this evening, where we're trying to get to and understand that wisdom and seeking and truth. The answers are within us. So, as I do this, and if you wish to take part, that's fantastic. Please do. If you don't, that's absolutely fine. You don't have to. African spirituality, way of life, is not about coercion. So, if you do, then sit straight, feet flat on the floor, palm of your hands on your thighs. Breathe deeply. I'm going to ring the chime 7 times and count in Kiswahili to keep time. Allow it to go around us, through us, and over us. We called upon the principles and powers. We called upon the ancestors, and we called upon the all that all things emanate from, and we are divine expressions of. And we be thinking of gratitude and thanks and recognition, and ask that they take our intentions back to their realm and help us to manifest. And also of that we as taking leave of each other, and that we do so in unity. So I'll begin. Moja. Mbili. Tatu. Nne. Tano. Sita. Saba. And finally, we end on the affirmation and words of power on screen, and use the vibration of our voices to give that power. Our words have power, our intentions have power, and so that what we say, what you think, so shall it be. So if you wish to take part, please do. So saying with power and intent, just follow after me. Nguvu zote.
Nguvu zote.
Kwa watu wetu.
Nguvu zote.
Kwa watu wetu.
Watu wetu.
Mapenzi ya wote.
Mapenzi ya wote.
Mapenzi ya wote.
Ni mapenzi yetu.
Mapenzi
Ni mapenzi yetu.
Ni mapenzi yetu.
Hakuna mwanzo.
Hakuna
mwanzo.
Hakuna mwanzo.
Na hakuna mwisho.
Na hakuna
mwisho.
Na hakuna mwisho.
And finally in Cometian, Anuk, Amen.
Anuk, Amen.
Amen.
Anuk, Amen.
Anuk, Amen.
Which means all power to our people. The will of the all is our will. There is no beginning and there is no end. I am, Amen. And we have the vibration of the colors there of the red, black, and green, and also of purple. The purple is the vibration and color of intuition. Asante sana, Jama.
Asante sana.
Yeah, asante sana and Mani for that. So I'd like to thank everybody for watching again. I'd like to thank all the guests that appeared today. And we'll be back again next week at 6 p.m. with another interesting dynamic presentation for you. So until then, I bid you kwaheri.